Hey y'all, this is just a precursor to the next video you're about to listen to. I just want to, as usual, tell you what to expect. This video, again, is a compilation of different clips. I think it's like anywhere from 3 to 5 clips that I put together. More than 3. I think it's like 4 to 5 clips that I put together. But I did go off on relevant tangents in the video. I always do. That always happens. So it's always relevant what I talk about. So the next video is really just a continuation of the last 2 videos, y'all. And really just a continuation of the saga that's been happening with this old drama from my old gym, with the personal trainer from my old gym, and the recent amp up in the targeting because of what took place with his girlfriend 4 months ago. So it's just a continuation of that drama, but more specifically a continuation of the last 2 videos I posted. So before you check this video out, y'all, check out the last 2 videos. Actually, in the next clip, you're going to hear me do my typical intro where I say, if you're new to the channel, please check out the links in the description box and comment section. And in both locations, you'll find an identical set of links that lead to videos that talk about what started my targeting in 2020, as well as links that lead to videos that share information about the targeted individual program, info about the tactics used on targets, info about the technology used on targets, and just info about the program in general. But please listen to my story if you haven't, y'all, because all of this will sound like foreign info to you if you're not familiar with my story. Listen to my story, then try to keep up with some of the videos I've made over the course of the last few years, y'all. I know it's a lot of videos. I have 186 videos posted, and this is the 187th video. But even if you don't go through all of my videos, at least listen to my story, so you can be familiar with that. And then you can check out some of these recent videos and what's been going on with me recently in my targeting. So anyways, if you're familiar with the story and you have been keeping up, but you haven't checked out the recent videos and you're just popping back on the channel, please check out the last 2 videos before you listen to this one. Because this one is basically just a continuation of the last 2 videos I posted that you see on the screen. So in this video, y'all, I'm just documenting more gang stalking activity at my new gym, and also some bipolar activity with the targeting, where one day it seems good and like things are getting better, and then the next day things are terrible. And it's almost like, because I started talking about them doing that, it's kind of like bipolar activity with the targeting. It's like they're doing it more now as a tactic. It's just the weirdest thing ever. But yeah, I started having some sort of weird activity not yesterday or even the day before that, about 3 days ago, after I made the last video, that manipulative tactics used on targeted individuals, that video. After I made that video, the day after, things seem to have gotten better. They were even using the color teal on me. And if y'all have been keeping up with my recent videos, you'll know that they've sensitized me to the color teal because they learned that's my favorite color. So they use that color in a positive way on me. Yellow is a negative color, and it's attached to the old gym and the personal trainer that I had the big drama with. Green is a negative color. They've been using that recently. Check out my recent videos, y'all, and the injury that I had in the new gym and what started the amp up in my targeting over the course of the last 4 months. That's when they started using the green. The green is a relatively new color. So, you know, a lot of these colors they use are negative, but the teal is positive. So anyway, they used that on me the day after I made the last video. And then the day after that, day before yesterday, it was just like bipolar activity. It was just like horrible gang stalking activity. And then when I got to the gym, they put this guy on top of me, this gang stalker, that's brothers with this another bipolar type thing. You know, this guy from the old gym that was doing bipolar activity, gang stalker from the old gym. And so in this video, I just talked about, again, documenting, like I said, gang stalking abuse. And I went into details about that guy specifically, that guy from my old gym, and why I think they're using his brother on me and why I think he was acting bipolar in the old gym. And then I start going into detail about how I know who they are in the first place. And I mentioned their sister, and that leads to me talking about another gang stalker his name begins with a C. You're going to hear it as you listen to the video, which led to me talking about another person that's relevant to my story that also has that name, and why I think they used the gang stalker that has that name because of this person that's relevant to my story that has that name. And so I go into detail about him too, and It's just a lot of drama, y'all. It's a lot. It's a lot. If you don't keep up with my videos, it might be confusing to listen to this video. What I'm saying is clear, right? And the story is crazy. My family and I have been through some crazy traumatic stuff. But it's real stuff, y'all. It's like a soap opera. Like, if you listen to these videos, it's like a soap opera. I kid you not, my life could probably be a Lifetime movie. I probably could make a Lifetime movie that would get views with the life I've lived. Anyway, so nonetheless, y'all, so that's what the video is about. Just documenting the continuation of what seems like gang stalking, bipolar activity. It's psychological, obviously. This is just how targeting works. But then also talking specifically about certain characters in the targeting in this video. And y'all, there's a comment I made in the video where I talk about this guy from the old gym, not the main personal trainer that the drama keeps continuing on with. The guy whose brother they're using on me in the new gym. And then I talk about his sister, right? The guy that I said acted bipolar. I talk about why I think he inserted himself in my targeting and why I think I was dealing with bipolar activity with him in the old gym. There's a comment I'm going to make in the video talking about the fact that I talked about him last year in like 2 videos. I made like 2 videos about him last year because he was doing just weird bipolar stuff in the old gym. And I never mentioned what I talk about in this video, why I think he started doing what he was doing in the first place. Now I'm talking about it because it's to the point where now they're putting his brother on me in the new gym. It's ridiculous. But anyway, just to clear up what happened with the Italian guy, because I didn't want to talk about it. I just don't even want to. The Italian thing is something they've sensationalized too in the targeting that I'm trying to get past as well. But last year, if you've been keeping up with my videos, you'll be familiar with the situation. I didn't want to go into detail about it, but I realized it might sound confusing if I don't. Last year, when I was still working out at the old gym, I stopped seeing the Italian guy. After the big thing at the end of 2024 that happened with him and the other personal trainer, the main one that I had the big drama with, who they're now punishing me basically for because of whatever happened at the end of 2024 with him and I. And the Italian guy was attached to the whole thing. After that big incident with that, and after, I would say like after the first few months of last year, I stopped seeing the Italian guy as a gang stalker in the old gym. Because I started doing this thing where whenever I would go in there and see him, I would leave. I would turn around and leave. And so eventually they stopped using him on me. He stopped coming, right? After he stopped coming, I didn't see him for months. Had not seen him for months, right? Mind you, I've been working out around this guy for about 2 years. Remember, I started working out in the old gym at the beginning of 2024. So I've worked out. He was like a consistent face in there, right? Before things popped off at the end of 2024. There was never any drama between him and I, and we didn't have much interaction either. There was this one... Hold on, okay. Y'all, someone else is coming to the gate. Give me a minute. 6:58. Let me hurry up and wrap this up, y'all. I'm at work. Y'all can see the time at the top. It says 6:59, basically 7 o'clock. I get off at 8. But I started I started this video like 2 days ago. But I decided to finish it last night or this morning while I was at work because they started hitting me with the energy weapon again here on the job, and I just thought it was unfair. I'm like, why is this happening? And so it reminded me that I was making this video, and I decided to finish making it. So I'm just doing this precursor video for clarity, like I always do, just so you can understand what you're going to be listening to in the next few clips, what the video's about. But then I realized there's something I talked about in the video that I wanted to expound on. So when you listen to the video, you're going to hear about this guy, right? And his brother that they're using on me as a gang stalker in the new gym. You're going to hear the whole rundown, right? But before you get there, I'm just trying to expound on something that I mentioned in the next clip as it pertains to him and the Italian guy. I said I made a video about him last year, like 2 videos, and something happened with him that I wouldn't say it validated it kind of validated what I said about the Italian guy, because that created some stupidness with him too. Let me be clear, right? If you've been keeping up with my videos, you might remember me talking about this last year. But anyway, I stopped seeing the Italian guy last year, right after the big drama in 2024, at the end of 2024. I saw him a few times at the beginning of the year, of last year. And I started doing this thing where whenever I would go in the gym and see him, I would leave. So they stopped using him. He stopped coming. So a few months later down the line, right, shortly after I lost the job as a corrections officer, I noticed I went on Facebook. I was just home laying in my bed and I was just scrolling through Facebook. And you know, they have like this tab that you can slide to the left and you'll see different profiles and it says recommended, right? So these are people they're recommending to you to send a friend request to. And typically in the recommended, from what I heard in the past at least, this is what I heard. I heard that the people that you'll see floating there are either people that have a lot of mutual friends with you. And so you're, interacting with the same people constantly. So they recommend this person, like, hey, you might know this person. Or it can be somebody's page that you visited, or somebody's page that visited your profile. So I was working around this guy for a good year and change, almost 2 years, and I never saw his profile floating around in my mutual friends. I never saw it. I never saw him floating around in my recommended. All of a sudden I'm laying there on the bed and I'm just like scrolling down, and it's not even like I sat there and I scrolled through the tabs, right? Like the recommended and then saw him. It was the first profile in my recommended. So I was just scrolling down and it was literally the first profile in my recommended, and the name was different. It's like he has a name that you abbreviate. Most names you can abbreviate, right? But the way that people would typically abbreviate the name, he did it the opposite way. So instead of shortening it and using the first part of the name, he shortened it and he used the latter part of the name. So I didn't recognize the name. It was really the person in the picture. He was on the beach and he walking a dog or whatever. And something just stood out to me. I was like, that face looks familiar. And so I remember going to the profile and looking through like a couple of pictures. I said, oh, shoot. I said, I thought it. I didn't say it out loud. I thought it, but remember my thoughts are being projected. And the neighbors are watching me obsessively, excuse me. Not obsessively. Which trippiness am I saying? Obsessively. I have one neighbor that sits on top of me all day long hammering. I don't even know what the person looks like. They don't leave the house. It's almost like vampire activity. They do not leave the house and they're always available. No matter what time of the day or night, they're always available. I will be asleep for hours. As soon as I open my eyes, they start hammering. It's gotten to the point where I'm putting earphones in to block them out because they're such a nuisance to me. It's like I'm telling you the kind of way I feel about the neighborhood now, that neighborhood I'm living in now. That we're in my grandparents' house. You're going to hear me talk about that more in the coming clips too. And I've talked about it in prior videos. But when I was younger, I used to go to that neighborhood all the time to see my grandparents. And I used to love that neighborhood. It was like a feeling of nostalgia going in there. It's like Nightmare on Elm Street now, that neighborhood. And it's like the memories I had in there are tarnished. The house is in a terrible condition. Nowhere near how it used to be when my grandma, was alive. It's just terrible, man. Anyway, so I was, I went to the profile and I just looked through like the first 2 or 3 pics and I realized it was him. I was like, oh shoot, that's the Italian guy from the gym. I thought it in my head. Of course, the neighbors are on it immediately. They start barking, making the dogs bark, and I'm hearing a bunch of reffing and noise campaign outside. And remember, they had started pushing this false narrative of me being quote unquote thirsty as retribution for what happened with the main personal trainer from that gym. That's tied to the Italian guy. If you listen to the whole saga, you know what happened, right? So immediately I got like paranoid that they're going to make it like I'm on his page being thirsty. So even though I know they're watching me. I know they saw how I got on his page. I know they saw it was right there, but some of these people are not tech savvy, and I don't know who's doing what. Some of them are older. Some of them are of regular age. I don't know who's doing what, but I just got paranoid. I don't want them to run with the narrative that I'm on his page doing anything. So I remember flying back to the main page, my home page, to the recommended friend area and showing that he was literally the first profile in the recommended friends. I said, look, he's right here. I said, this is how I ended up on his page. I said, he's sitting right here on top of the recommended friends. So that's why I clicked on it, because I've never seen him there before. And then I said this comment that I didn't need to say, an unnecessary comment that led to a little bit of drama. I quickly out that fire because I don't want the drama, man. And I didn't have any ill intent. So anyway, I just made this stupid comment and I said, it's not stupid. Like I said, this bipolar dude from the old gym, because this is where I'm getting to. Something that happened with him kind of validated what I was saying. Not necessarily that he was on my page, but that could have been why he was there. His page was there. So I said, I said, look, you see, he's at the top of my recommended. That's why I clicked on it. I was just trying to see if it really was him. I said, I heard when you see people floating in your recommended, especially if they're at the top of the list, either you visited their profile or they visited your profile. Now they're all watching me. They know I never went on his page. I didn't even know the man had a Facebook. They're watching everything I'm doing like a hawk. I can't even fart without these people making noise campaigns on me. So they know good and well I wasn't on his profile. So anyway, so I made that comment and it turned into this thing. It almost turned into this thing because of course he doesn't want me saying that he was on my page, especially if he wasn't. I don't know if he was or wasn't. Up to this day, I don't know if he was or wasn't, but this was around the time when I lost the job as a correction officer. It could have just been nosiness. You remember he was coming in the gym for a good 2 years, working out around me. So even if he were on my profile, it doesn't mean that he wants me and he's trying to get next to me, because they have this warped mentality that I'm like some sort of narcissistic, like pig-headed female that, has this warped sense that every man wants me. I don't feel that way, especially not as a target. With the way they've sensitized me, excuse me, not sensitized me, I'm using the wrong word. With the way they've villainized me and the way they've made me into like this spectacle, there was a point where I was getting a lot of attention, but they've definitely done a very good job of isolating and making me into a spectacle, isolating me and making me into a spectacle. So even if someone wants me, they're never going to be open and honest about it, especially not with the camera still on me, right? So I'm not, and with him specifically too, he's white. And I've shared offensive Hebrew Israelite propaganda in my car 4 years ago. I didn't think the man was trying to marry me or get next to me. It could have been nosiness. Who knows if he was on my page, right? I didn't say for sure, this means he's on my page. It's not like I said, you see him here? I said he was on my page. That's why I went to his page. I just said I heard that possibly that might have been the case. If this person is sitting there if their profile is there, they might have visited your profile or you visited theirs. So anyway, it started to turn into this stupid thing. When I went back to the gym, all of a sudden he was there. And it was like he came in after. He purposely came in after I was in there because he knew I was doing this thing whenever he was in there, that I would leave. I wouldn't go in there. So he waited till I started my workout and then he came in. And I wasn't going to stop my workout now because he came in. So I just kind of ignored it. But in my head, I knew something might pop off because it was like literally right after that thing happened, So anyway, he's in there and, he's with this girl that he used to be training off and on. And she's had like fake conversations with me off and on. I could tell she didn't really care for me. She looks racially ambiguous too. I don't know what she is. Maybe she's Italian too. I don't know. But she's had fake conversations with me. But I'm good at reading people. I'm very intuitive. And I could tell she didn't really care for me as a person. I can't say I blame her. I've shared a lot of offensive content. She might be white. I don't know. She looks racially ambiguous. Or Hispanic. I don't know. It's kind of difficult and murky. I keep saying this with Italian people and certain ethnicities. Because it's such a melting pot, the whole world anyway, most people have stuff in them. Even if you're from the Netherlands, you likely have stuff in if you're from Europe, you might still have some stuff in you, even if you look like you're pure white. If you're from Africa, you might have stuff in you, even if you look like you're pure black. There's rarely anybody that's pure race in this day and age. Everybody's mixed up. We're in a diverse time, right? So anyway, specifically though, with certain ethnicities, they're ambiguous. I would describe them as being racially ambiguous, where they could pass at different times for different ethnicities. 1 minute you might look Spanish, the next minute you look Arabic, the next minute you look white. Like, I can't tell what you are. And that's how I would describe the Italian guy, and that's how I would describe this female that he used to train off and on. So she's had some conversations with me off and on, and I don't know, I'm good at reading people. I could just tell, I don't want to say disingenuous, but I just could tell, you don't really care for me. Anyway, so nonetheless, she was there with him, and they were both kind of doing gang stalking stuff, but she even seemed more mad than him. She was doing a lot of gang stalking stuff. I was like, what the heck is going on? I was like, oh boy, I know what this is about. This is about this stupid moment that happened on my bed. Another moment that had the cameras not been on me, I wouldn't be going through this. Because you're going to hear in the next video too about something else that happened, similar situation, not similar, completely different situation, but another scenario where the cameras were on me and something out of innocence turned into like me having enemies, right? So anyway, I wouldn't say enemies. I'm not going to say he's an enemy, but like, it was like some drama started brewing over that one moment on my bed, because nobody wants to, especially with the target that's being, ostracized and, viewed as a spectacle. Nobody wants to look like they're looking at her page. And it's already this thing too where they think I'm a narcissist too, on top of things. And then I've shared offensive stuff about white people. Like I said, he's white, he's Italian. You know, it is kind of a mixed ethnicity / race. Somebody's there at the gate, y'all. Hold on. They didn't beep. I usually sit up in the chair at 7:20, y'all, because that's when people really start coming through. But there are a few people that come in a little bit earlier. Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. All right. Morning. Good thing I'm paying attention, because I know there are a few cars that come in before that time where I like to go sit in the chair. Before the main bulk of cars come in. So I knew I had to, despite making this video, I knew I had to be cognizant of what's going on. So 7:10 a.m. office worker work. They're doing the bike flip. Anyway, I can't. Anyway, y'all, so with the Italian guy, he seemed upset too. And he was low-key like moving this kind of way, but she even seemed more upset than him. But they both seemed upset. And so he was there training her, and they were doing low-key gang stalking stuff. And I said, you know what, this song was playing, of all times for me to have downloaded this song, right? I had downloaded a song from Tiana Taylor. I had downloaded a bunch of new music. And the song was saying, "You're so out of my league." That's how the song goes. The song is titled "You're Out of My League." And there were several songs from her that I had put on my playlist, really. I forgot there was this, I think it was Tiny Desk. You know that thing where these artists go and they perform live on the thing that's called NPR Tiny Desk, and it's a lot of R&B artists, rappers, pop artists, whatever. They go there and they'll do like a little mini concert, and it's on YouTube. It's this big thing on YouTube. I think I saw an NPR Tiny Desk for Tiana Taylor, and I'm a big fan of hers. So I put a bunch of her, like her whole album. I forgot what album that was. It was an album from when I was in college still, and I used to listen to all of those songs, even songs that weren't necessarily relevant to me. I just like how her voice sounds. So I downloaded a bunch of her songs onto my playlist, and that was one of the songs. I didn't have any insecurity about what was being said because I'm targeted. At this point, everybody's out of my league. I can't date anybody. I'm targeted and they're blocking up everything. So anyway, it wasn't for anyone specifically. It was really just like a bunch of her songs that I put on the playlist, similar to the Angie Stone thing. Remember when Angie Stone, if you've been keeping up with my videos, you'll have heard something with the other guy, the main guy that, the personal trainer, the main one, that's kind of attached to the Italian guy that the drama happened with, and, why I'm being punished to this day still. Something happened with him last year too, where I put a bunch of Angie Stone songs on my playlist because Angie Stone had passed away. And it's like he was taking offense to one of the songs that played on the playlist while he was in the gym gang stalking. It was just craziness that was going on last year, Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent and confuse y'all. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you know the exact incident I'm talking about. But back to the Italian guy. So that song came on, the "You're So Out of My League," and instead of changing it, because I knew why he was there and why he was upset, I'm a humble person. They keep making it like I'm this narcissistic person. I'm not. I'm very humble and actually very insecure too with what they've been doing to me in the targeting. So anyways, I purposely kept squatting down every time it would say "You're out of my league," so he could understand that I don't feel like you're trying to come for me. I don't think you're trying to get next to me. And I'm not in the position or predicament to be checking for any guy at this point, what I got going on. And then on top of things too, I know I've offended him. Come on, man. If he were on my page, it doesn't even mean that he was on there checking me out. It could have been nosiness. Remember, I said this was around the time when I lost the correction officer job. I'm like this big spectacle freak show, and everybody's watching like it's a soap opera and it's like a movie. It's like entertainment for them. So even if he did slide over to my page, it could have been him being nosy if he were there. Anyway, nonetheless, God, so I just started to purposely squat. Every time it said "You're out of my league," I would squat, and I would squat so he can understand that's how I feel. Please, I don't think you're trying to get next to me, sir. I didn't think so. So anyway, after I started doing that, I think he kind of softened up a little bit. Like he wasn't being as harsh, and he just did one last gang stalking thing, and then they disappeared, him and the girl. And that was it. I didn't see him again after. I did see him again after that. There was like a few months after that when the correction officer job, what was it? They put me on post here again last year. Hold on, y'all. Somebody's pulling up. Hold on. CB49. Actually, yeah, I got the timeline mixed up with things too. Before that happened, where he was in the gym doing whatever he was doing, there was one other time I saw him. I'm trying to not get the timeline mixed up. It was like 3 times I saw him last year, and two of the times I saw him was connected to that thing. And then one time it was just like randomly I saw him in the grocery store, and that was around the time when I thought I would be getting the correction officer job back. They had posted me here at the same post to do security. Of course, the post ended up getting pulled from me back then, but they had put me on this post last year, and then I remembered, hints at me getting the job back then too. No, they hadn't put me back on post. What it was one of the supervisors from this job started coming to my gym, and then I noticed I saw him in the grocery store randomly. That happened, but that was after these 2 incidents I'm talking about now. The time where he came with the girl and he was upset, like seeming upset. And then after that incident too, before I made a video talking about the thing, I also went into his gym unknowingly. So my gym, the old gym, when I was still in the old gym, ran out of creatine. And so I was going on this island-wide hunt looking for creatine, and it almost felt like it was gang stalking too, because I don't want to say that and be accusatory, but it was like nowhere had creatine, not even the health food store. Typically the health food store at least has it if nowhere else, right? Nowhere had it. So in my head, I thought to myself, well, if my gym sells it, then the other gyms probably sell it too. So I remember just hopping around from gym to gym, and his gym was the first gym outside of my gym that I stopped at. I didn't know he owned a gym because he was always coming and working out at my old gym and training people. It never dawned on me that this man might have a gym, because it's like, why would he be in this gym then? Right? Gang stalking. But anyway, so I didn't know he had his own gym. But he really was authentically, sometimes it would seem like training people, but maybe the whole intent of him being there was gang stalking. So anyways, I went into the gym not knowing that I would have never walked into that gym if I had known that man owned that gym. I had no clue. So I walk into the gym, and, there was this young man at the counter, and he's very friendly at first. I know he probably knew who I was, but he was being very friendly, and I was asking him if they had creatine, and he said, sure we do. He said, up there is the kind that we sell, and he was telling me the price. So while he's telling me the price, the Italian guy flies out from the back, right? And he starts telling me, he comes and he shakes my hand. He said, welcome to the gym. He said, welcome. And he said, we're out of stock right now with the creatine. He's explaining to me that they're out of stock, but they'll be getting some on Monday. So he told me come back on Monday, right? And then as he's walking back by his office, then he grabs his bottle of water and he takes a big chunk of the bottle of water. So I was like, what the heck? So I knew this was all tied to this thing that happened on the bed with the Facebook thing, where his thing was floating at the top of my profile. So that was when I finally made a video about whatever, because the thing in the gym had happened with him and the girl. And then also this thing at his gym where I didn't even know the man owned a gym. I would not have walked inside there. I had no clue. And it wasn't until he came out and said, we're out of stock and stuff, I started realizing, wait a minute, I think this might be his gym, is what I started putting 2 and 2 together. So anyway, of course I wasn't going back on Monday. I was never coming back after that. So I went to another gym, and the gym, actually, coincidentally enough, that's my gym now, the new gym. I stopped there by them, and they had creatine, and they sold it to me. So anyway, those 2 things happened, and that was what led to me making the video initially, explaining where I was coming from, why I said what I said, etc., etc. And it died down. I didn't see him again. There was, like I said, one other time, a third time where I saw him, which was months after, and it was around the time when they were hinting aggressively last year that I was going to get my job back as a corrections officer, and they were putting certain people from the job in my old gym. And then I saw him randomly in the grocery store. Like, I was in the grocery store and I saw him. And I just kind of did this maneuver where I walked around in a way where I wouldn't have to walk in his path. And that was it. I haven't seen the man again. And I'm in a whole new gym now anyway. I do not talk about the situation. I try to, I don't want them to try to amp that thing up and try to, create a thing with that again. I don't talk about it. They're constantly, sometimes they sensationalized him too and made him a character in the targeting. When they're ready, they be sending stuff about Italians via the technology, trying to sensitize, but they don't do it as much these days. They're more so focused on the other guy from the old gym. And, sorry, I'm just looking around, making sure there's no vehicles by the gate. They're more so focused on the other guy from the old gym and, these recent characters that they've sensationalized into targeting, right? So anyway, so how this ties in with the bipolar guy, the random bipolar guy. I keep calling him bipolar because he was doing bipolar activity. And if you listen to my old videos from last year about him, I made like 2 videos about him. It's just how irrelevant he kind of is to me in the targeting, because he's not one of these people that had a main role in my targeting, but he kind of tried to insert himself in my targeting and do bipolar stuff. When I say bipolar, like last year, we were friends on Facebook. He comes in the gym and randomly kind of does this low-key thing where he's like trying to befriend me, right? So first of all, on Facebook, I just noticed he liked some of my posts, but a lot of these guys were doing that last year before things really blew up. Not last year, excuse me, in 2024. Before what happened at the end of the year with the main personal trainer guy. So he was just sometimes liking my posts. It's not like he was writing me messages. He just liked a few posts for me, and it was mainly workout stuff. He's a workout person too. We're all people that work out and stuff, right? He didn't write me any messages. He wasn't trying to get next to me or hit on me or anything like that, right? Then I noticed I did a squat. I did the 270-pound squat in the old gym, and I put a video up about it. So I remember him liking it. I think he said impressive or something like that. I can't remember. This was like 2 years ago, y'all. This was in 2024. So then I'm walking in the gym. He goes out of his way now to talk to me. And he says, hey, he said, you're the girl from, I know you. Where do I know you from? He's taking off his shades like, where do I know you from? Trying to make conversation with me. I said, I believe we're friends on Facebook. You know, I'm not fake. I'm not going to be like, I don't know. I'm like, I believe we're friends on Facebook. I didn't say it in like the sarcastic way I'm saying it now. Understand how I sound now because I've dealt with weird stuff with him. And now they're putting his brother on top of me in the new gym. You're going to hear in the next video, right? The whole thing with him, right? I'm just trying to expound on some of the things I talked about in the next clip for clarity. Some things I referenced that I didn't go into detail about because I just don't care. And it's all irrelevant to me, but still I'm talking about it because now they're using his brother on me as a gang stalker in the new gym. And I want to talk about why I think they're doing it. So anyways, so he acted like he talking to me in the back room. He's like, you're that girl that's on my Facebook, right? And he said, you're doing incredible stuff. He said, I saw you squatting 270 pounds. He said, you're good job. Like, keep it up, whatever. He said, that's impressive. I said, thank you so much. I said, whatever. And he said, well, where have you been? How come I don't know you? And he said, have you been under a rock or something? I can't remember verbatim what he said, but this is kind of what he was saying. I said, I don't know. I said, kind of. I said, I'm very shy. And I stayed to myself. And he said, okay. He said, oh, what kind of shy? How shy? And I said, like, real shy. He said, okay, well, no problem. Well, nice to meet you. Whatever he said, like this fake introduction. I thought he was being genuine, right? Despite me knowing the initial encounter I had with him, right? Before he inserted himself in my targeting, before we got in the gym. I just thought that wasn't a problem. But it's when I dealt with the bipolar activity with him, I started realizing he probably holding a grudge from that thing outside of the juice bar. You're going to hear about it in the next clips, y'all. Anyway, so after he does that, then he starts doing bipolar activity. Like, I noticed randomly, like, I don't know, maybe like a week or two after, he starts coming to the gym in red and white and doing weird gang stalking activities on top of me. Like, he's coming on top of me and doing the noises while he's lifting the weights randomly. Like, before when he talked to me, he was not wearing the gang stalking colors and he was acting normal. He even, like I said, liked a few of my things. He was liking that heavy ass squat that I did. Then he's coming to the gym and like on top of me and goes, and with the sensitizing colors and stuff randomly, you know. I think that was his intention the whole time, was to try to insert himself as a gang stalker because of whatever. So anyway, it's just like it was bipolar stuff like that. Then after he done come on top of me and doing noise campaigns, then there's the next time I'm minding my business doing leg presses. It was like 300-pound leg presses. I used to go real heavy in that old gym, y'all. Before I got my injury and stuff, I was really lifting heavy. So I was doing 300-pound leg presses. Hold on a second, y'all. Another car's coming through. I'm actually going to try to wrap this video up. I really am. I just wanted to expound on some things in this precursor clip, y'all. All right. Morning. Anyways, y'all, so I don't know what they're rubbing by for. Anyways, so now I'm doing 300-pound leg press, right? And that was the norm for me. They used to see me doing that all the time. I used to do some really heavy work in there. So after I finished doing the leg presses, I'm taking down the plates. He comes next to me now, and I'm now hesitant because you were just, not too long ago, however long ago, I'm not keeping track of whenever he was coming in there. You were just in there wearing the sensitizing colors and doing noise campaigns. But now you're here acting like you're helping me or something, because then he acts like he's helping me take the plates off. And he was not wearing gang stalking colors this day. So he just starts helping me take the plates off. So he made some sort of comment, and I just said thank you, and I think he didn't hear me. I think he didn't hear me say thank you, because then he did this face and he looked at me like I said something disrespectful. And then he moved the plates, and then he walked off with this kind of like attitude or something. I don't know if he misheard me or what took place, if the wires got crossed, but I think he's just on edge anyway. I think this is all stemming back to, you're going to hear in the next clips what happened outside the juice bar. So anyway, y'all, I think that's why he was doing all this bipolar stuff. And then obviously too, hopping on the bandwagon when things went sour with the other dude. Obviously, he's friends with all those people, but I think he had an issue with me from the jump, from before I ever got in that gym. I really think so. So anyways, y'all, so then there's a next incident that happened. This is after the big thing. So he really on board now and ready to do gang stalking stuff. This was after the big drama that happened with the dude at the end of 2024. The big thing that happened that created all the punishment and retribution I'm receiving now with the main personal trainer. That's tied to the Italian guy. If you've been keeping up with the videos, you'll know what I'm talking about, y'all. So anyway, after that happened, and they started inserting the dude's girlfriend and stuff when they first started inserting her, I'm on the Smith machine squatting, minding my business. He come and act like he's doing the tactic that they started doing on me, where they would purposely, like, there's this big, huge ass mirror. I can't move the Smith machine, so I have to squat in front of my section of the mirror. Not to say my like I own it, but the section of the mirror that's directly in front of the Smith machine. But you're doing a dumbbell workout. You can go in any part of the mirror. It's this big, huge mirror. This tactic they were doing in the old gym, where they would purposely stand directly in front of the Smith machine to block me and act like they're doing curls, bicep curls. And they know why I want to see myself in the mirror. It's because I've already explained this. I'm tall and I have long femurs. You can be tall and have shorter femurs, but I have longer femurs. I have long femurs. I have long legs. And so people with longer femurs are susceptible to poor squat form. And so whenever I squat, I'm liable to lean too forward in the squat. And that's what was happening to me, especially when I squatted heavier weight. I'm a heavy squatter. I was squatting 270, 250 heavy weight. And so to avoid injury, I wanted to see myself in the mirror. So they were doing this bullying tactic in the old gym, where they're purposely like come directly in front of me and block when I'm squatting. Coincidentally, now you're coming directly in front of me to do bicep curls. It was a spiteful, stupid thing they were doing. There's a lot of annoying stuff they used to do in the old gym. Now I'm thinking about it, just annoys me so bad. So anyway, thank God, I keep saying the setup in the new gym, they can't do that. With the way it is, like the squat rack is flush against the mirror. They cannot do that in the new gym. The only thing they can do is set somebody up on the machine before I get there. But it's like they can't do that tactic, thank the Most High, right? But anyway, so he doing that tactic one night all of a sudden. I'm like, what is this dude's issue now? So he's doing that, right? And so I go up to him, and like I would do to the other ones that were doing the stupid thing, I politely said to him, I said, hey, I wasn't even rude to him. I could see if I was one of these nights where I was acting nasty, because I used to get real rowdy. After they started bullying me, because I had the reaction to the main personal trainer guy, and they started doing all the gnarly stuff they started doing to me in that gym, I started to have no cap, and I started to go ham on a lot of them dudes, right? I didn't even do that with him. I went to him politely, and I just said, hey, I said, you're blocking me. I said, I just started squatting and you're directly in my line of vision, and I like to see myself when I'm squatting. I said, do you mind moving over a little bit so I can see myself? This is how I spoke to the man. He started to do this big show theatrics, like he's flipping out. It was so fake. Not a good actor at all. Not a good actor. But he's like, what? He said, you don't own this mirror. He said, you don't own this mirror. He said, you know what? Don't ever talk to me about that again. Don't ever come and talk to me about that again. If you see me here in this mirror, nobody else has ever gone out like that with me, There are dudes I have thought mean stuff about that was doing that tactic. I went to the man politely. I said, hello. I said, listen. I said, I'm here squatting on the Smith machine. You're blocking me right now, and I like to see myself squat. Do you mind moving over a little bit? He starts to go off with this big fake theatric thing for the island. Big show for the camera, right? So I'm looking at him like he's crazy. The main personal trainer dude walks up to me. He said, hey, don't worry about him. Don't worry about him. The same dude that actually had the big drama with at the end of 2024. And the reason why I'm still getting punished now. He walks up to me and says, hey, just leave it alone. Don't worry about it. And his girlfriend walks up to the dude and acts like she's comforting the dude. I'm like, what is going on in this gym? But specifically with him, that's why I keep calling him bipolar. Whenever I refer to him, I call him the bipolar dude. Because the activity was strange with him. Anyway, so that's what I'm talking about. So after that happened, I made a third video about him, right? Because not a third video, that was the second video. I made 2 videos about him. So before he did that big thing he did in the mirror, I did make a video about him talking about the bipolar stuff he was doing. But I didn't mention what I mentioned in this video, what you're going to hear in the next clip. Why I think, hold on, y'all. $7:30 a.m. Nurse, male, CO, work on. It's almost time for me to go in the chair too. Wow, actually it is time. It's 7:30 now. It's time for me to go in the chair. Y'all, so I really have to wrap this video up now. This is the time where people actually do start coming through now. Let me try to wrap this up. It wasn't supposed to be this long of a video, this part here, y'all. I just realized I was doing a precursor video so you could know what to expect in the next few clips, like I always do. But then I recalled one of the situations that you're going to hear me talking about in the next clip. I realized I wanted to expound on that. So let me hurry up and finish up. So I had made, at that point, one video about him before he did that fake flip out thing. We're talking about the weird stuff that he does, because then after he helped me with the leg extension machine, right? Not leg extension, the leg press machine. Remember where I said I was doing the 300 pounds and then he came and acted like he's helping me take the plates off? And then he said something to me and I responded, thank you. And I don't think he heard me. And then he did this weird face and walked off. And then more gang stalking activity with him, right? After the fact. Off and on, he would still be doing weird gang stalking stuff. Oh. 7:32. Morning. 7:32. That is Gravely. And that is CHI 644. CHI 644. Let me really wrap this up, y'all, this video. People are really starting to come through now. Through the gate. Remember, I'm still at work, y'all. That's why you keep hearing the gate close when you hear the interaction happening, right? Remember, I do security at the facility where I used to be a corrections officer. So I'm at the booth manning the gate. And this is that time in the morning when they start coming through. I work the night shift. I work from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. And, around 7:30-ish, like this time is when they really start coming through the gate. So anyways, y'all, after that incident with the leg press machine, he started doing like more gang stalking stuff around me. And this is what led to me making a video about him. I finally did make a video about him. I didn't even talk about what I talked about in the next clip that you're going to hear. The initial interaction I had with him before I ever got in that gym and why I think he inserted himself in my targeting in the first place, the way he did. But anyways, so that big thing happens, right? And this was after now the big interaction that happened with the main personal trainer. So all them dudes were against me at that point. So of course he was already having issues anyway, right? So he did that big scene in front of the mirror or whatever. And I made another video about him talking about, just the situation, how I know, the reason I know who he is in the first place, and, how the activity is bipolar and whatever, right? So it was like 2 videos I made about him last year. Now I'm in the new gym, they're putting his brother on top of me, right? So this is why I talk in detail about how I know who they are, how I know who the sister is, and it leads to me kind of talking about somebody related to me who had a relation or a relationship with somebody that had a relationship with their sister. And that person's relevant to the targeting too, because they use someone else that has that person's name as a gang stalker on me. And I believe it's because of conversations that took place on camera in 2023. But understand, like I said, you're going to hear more details about this guy that I'm calling the bipolar gang stalker in the next clip. I talk about in detail my first encounter with him and why I think he's doing what he's doing. But also, something I forgot to mention, when I do talk about him in the next clip and you hear me talking about him and his brother that they're putting on top of me in the new gym, know that I was friends with the brother on Facebook too. I was friends with both of them on Facebook. I don't know how it happened. I don't know when it happened. My Facebook was created in 2021. I don't know how I became friends with them. I don't know them. I know that from years prior, you're going to hear in the next few clips how I know about their sister. Like I said, she dated somebody at the same time as someone that's related to me. And it was some kind of drama thing back in the day. That's how I know or initially knew her. And then, you know, there was this big scandal with her in recent years when my targeting first started, before it went viral. You're going to hear me talk about it in the next clip, right? I don't really go into details about her scandal because that's not my story to tell. But I'm just telling you how I'm familiar with their family and why I even know who they are in the first place. But they were friends with me on Facebook. So I was friends with the two brothers. I noticed after that thing outside of the juice bar happened, before I even got into the new gym, I noticed specifically on the brother's page, the brother that they're now using as a gang stalker on me in the new gym, you know, some mean, I don't know if it was shadow network, because that's the thing I'm learning recently now. A lot of the things that I thought were posts from people was the AI, shadow network. They can make it look like things are being posted that aren't being posted. They do it on celebrities' pages where they're making them worse sensitizing colors. This is some advanced technology, y'all. Check out the links in the description box and comment section. But anyway, back then I wasn't really familiar with the shadow network software like that. So up to now, I don't know if he was genuinely putting these mean posts up or if it was AI, shadow network. I really don't know. But I did notice that I started seeing some activity on the brother's page because it was showing up in my newsfeed, the stuff he was posting. But oftentimes when they're doing the shadow network, it is in my newsfeed. So up to now, I don't know if the man was really saying all the horrible stuff. But I just started noticing like some sensitizing stuff on his page. Like, I'm just like, is this tied to the thing with the brother when he came outside the juice bar and the weird thing happened? I actually unadded him off of Facebook. We were friends on Facebook. That brother that they're using on me in the new gym, I actually unfriended him. So anyway, all of these things took place. I forgot to mention that too. So you're going to hear in the next clip now, y'all, more info about these two. The bipolar guy from the old gym and his brother they're throwing on top. I didn't really say much about the brother. I don't know him like that. I don't even know the other brother. But I had more experiences with him, bipolar activity, than I did with this new guy. The brother now, even if he did say nasty things in the past, he's been kind of neutral now with the gang stalking. He hasn't been too over the top. But I noticed this last week, he's really been on top of me as a gang stalker and doing subtle things. Like I saw him throw trash away, act like he's sipping water. It's like very subtle, but he's doing stuff. Specifically yesterday, or was it was day before yesterday, where they had him there the whole session and he was low-key doing like subtle things. And it's like I'm so sensitized to people sipping water too. I can't ever tell if, like, especially if you're doing it in a subtle way and you're not being very obvious about it. Like some of them, I can't tell if you're authentically taking a drink because you're working out, even if you are in the area as a gang stalker, or if you're being a bully. But I already know what I dealt with his brother. And I know the type of posts I was seeing on his page when I unadded him. So I'm like, why are they putting him on top of me? Regardless of whether he was being nasty or not with the sipping of the water, why are you putting him on top? Why do these two have a main part in my targeting? There's no relevancy. Because they didn't even know about the thing with the younger sister until the bipolar brother started doing stuff to me. And that's where I talked about how I even know who they are in the first place. Why do they have a main seat in my targeting? There's no relativity. I don't know them like that. What's going on? Anyway, y'all, so that's what's going on, y'all. So listen to the next few clips now. You're going to hear, like I said, documentation of, you know, some of the recent things that's happened since the last video I posted. And then just going into detail about those two I was just talking about, the brother that they're using on me in the new gym and the older brother, the bipolar, I keep calling him the bipolar gang stalker from the old gym, and why I think he was doing what he was doing in the first place. And then you'll hear some details about some other stuff, some controversial stuff, y'all, that I haven't really gone into detail about, but I believe that's why they used this guy on me as a gang stalker whose name begins with a C. Why I believe they used him as a gang stalker on me, and why they tried to like create this weird narrative with him. I think it's tied back to, hold on a second, y'all. I believe it's tied back to this other guy that has that name, that had, you know, some sort of relation with someone in my close circle. And that's actually how I initially learned about the sister of the bipolar dude that I was just talking about, because of something that happened back in the day with a relative of mine and this older guy that has the same name as a guy that they used as a gang stalker on me in the gym. So I know it sounds like a bunch of talala craziness. Y'all listen to the next few clips and you'll get the understanding. And if you've been keeping up with my recent videos, you'll know what's going on. That's it, y'all. That's it. You know, I only make these videos to defend myself. It's only ever to defend myself. I'll be talking about like abusive tactics that's being used, and I'm defending myself, and then I end up talking about, it sounds like I'm just sitting here running my mouth about people, but they have seen that they didn't know anything about me prior to me becoming a target. They knew nothing about me. They didn't know the men I was dating. They knew nothing about me until I became a target and I got put on these cameras, and all these unfair things started happening and tactics being used. And so I make the videos to defend myself, and unfortunately there are people involved that get talked about. That's just how it is. That's just how it's going, unfortunately. Even when the targeting first started for those first 2 years, from 2020 to 2022, I didn't make a video. I saved my money and I tried to relocate off island. I shouldn't have had to leave my home, but that's what I tried to do. And the thing followed me, as you all know. And so, y'all, that's what led to me making these videos, was when I got back on island from the thing going viral and blowing up and attaching itself to me. That's when I came home and started making videos to defend myself. And I started talking about certain individuals that were relevant to my targeting. So that's what these videos are about. And if you're targeted, you know, I see all targets do the same thing. You make videos, you get backlash for it. But it's like, it's a necessary thing sometimes. It's like a necessary evil to defend yourself. Anyway, so that's it, y'all. I'll talk to you in the next one. So just listen out, the next few clips. You're going to hear the documentation of what's taken place since the last video I made, and me going into detail about certain characters in the targeting. And I talked about, so like I said, some controversial stuff too. So I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace out. Y'all, I forgot to finish saying the correlation between the bipolar gang stalker from the old gym and the Italian guy, and a comment I made in the coming clips that I wanted to expound on, where I said something happened with him that validated what I said about the Italian guy. And I don't mean validated as in prove that he was on my page, but prove that could have been a possibility. That really is something I heard. I wasn't just saying that just to say it. So anyway, after I made the second video about that guy, the bipolar gang stalker from the old gym that was doing weird bipolar activity, are you going to hear about the initial encounter I had with him outside of a juice bar in the next few clips, and why I think he inserted himself in my targeting the way he did and was doing all this bipolar stuff. Anyway, nonetheless, after I made the second video about him, do you know, literally the morning after, I went on Facebook, and the first profile that I saw in the same area where the Italian guy's profile was, at the top of my recommended, was a profile picture with someone that had the same last name as him. And it's an older lady. She looks like an older lady. She looks like around my mom's age. And I think that guy's around my age. And had his face. The lady had the same face as him. It was like an older lady with his face. That had to be his mom or auntie or something. I strongly believe it was his mom. It has to be his mom. They had the same face. And she had the same last name as him. So I know she likely, after I made the video about him, hopped on my page. And not only that, there's been other incidences where I was able to prove what I said could have been the truth. Like last year, towards the end of the year, I actually started looking into boxing down here. And there's this like local boxing team that they have. I couldn't really find anything about it though. I only found one boxer, and she's a cop from from the neighboring island, right? In the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. But nonetheless, I wrote them on Facebook. Do you know, right after I wrote them a message, this local famous boxer, his profile was at the top of my recommended right after I sent them the message. So that's not a coincidence. So what I said is true. There is some validity to what I said. That doesn't necessarily mean the Italian guy was on my page, but I'm just saying what I said is true, that sometimes that's the case. That if you visit someone's profile or they visit your profile, it will show up at the top of the recommended. So anyway, y'all, that's what I was talking about in the coming clips, when you hear me saying that, something happened with the bipolar gang stalker that I'm going to be talking about in the next coming clips as well, that validated what I said about the Italian guy, that could have been the case. Anyway, that's it, y'all. Talk to you. Peace out. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. The name is Sharifa. My name is Sharifa, and my poetry name is New Lily. The saga continues, y'all. The drama continues. The abuse continues. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you know what I'm talking about. If you're new, welcome to the drama, y'all. Welcome to a true targeted individual's channel, y'all. I am going through it, and I have been going through it for the last 5 years and change. This is year 6 of my targeting. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please check out the links located in the description box and comment section. And in both of those locations, you'll see an identical set of links. Links that lead to videos that talk about what started my targeting in 2020, as well as links that lead to videos that share information about the targeted individual program, information about the technology used on targets, information about the tactics used on targets, and just information about the targeted individual program in general, y'all. I am going through it, and I have been going through it, y'all. A true target. Anyways, this is just like a continuation of the recent drama, y'all. Check out my last 2 videos if you're not familiar with what's going on. Actually, honestly, y'all, if you want to know what's really going on, you need to check out all my videos. You need to listen to my story, and you need to check out all of my videos to really be up to date with what's going on. But the recent drama, which isn't recent, it's a continuation of drama from years prior. But the recent amp up in the targeting started at, I want to say about, hold on, y'all. I'll tell you now. Started about 4 months ago. Like around November of last year. Or around December of last year. Was when things amped up with the targeting. And again, it's tied back to this man from the old gym and his freaking girlfriend. And it's deeper than that, y'all. It's a lot deeper than that. But that's right now one of the top competing factors in the targeting and the treatment I'm getting. It's tied back to this man from the old gym that I am so over this, y'all. I am so over this. They cannot let the thing go. Something that happened at the end, at this point of 2024. They cannot let it go. It is now manifesting in the new gym. And they keep trying to pretend like it's about everything but what it's really about. Please check out my last 2 videos. They've recruited white people. Of course, white people are going to hop on board because I shared offensive Hebrew Israelite propaganda in my car 4 years ago. They're pretending like it's about everything under the sun but what it's really about. They're now, it's to the point where they've recruited the brother of one of these dudes from the old gym. They have him on top of me. I'm going to talk about that in this video too, because I kept saying it's irrelevant. Don't give it clout. Don't give the thing clout. Don't give the thing clout. I keep saying it. The last video, I briefly mentioned the thing. I said, don't worry about it. If you're not familiar with the situation, oh well. And again, you'll have to have listened to my last video, y'all, to know what I'm talking about. I made a comment in the last video that I posted talking about, different gang stalkers that they're throwing on me in the new gym and manipulative tactics they're using in the new gym to impede my workout. And so I briefly mentioned this guy's brother. And I said, the guy from the old gym that was doing bipolar activity, and something that happened with him validated what I said about the Italian guy floating around in my mutual friends on Facebook. And then I said I wasn't going to go into details about what I was talking about. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm going to expound on that situation a little bit more because I see they're throwing him on top of me now more adamantly, which is just like so triggering for me because it's reminding me of the old gym. And I know that's what this is really about. They're holding a grudge. There's some sort of weird competition, and they feel like they need to humble me and like they didn't win. They've done so much to me, punished me so much over the situation that it's still like not enough. And it's impeding with work now too, because then I keep getting blackmailed about work. When I start having reactions to what they're doing to me, there's signals and low-key like innuendos about work and not having money. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not right. Especially if you're sitting there, you're doing your job and you're doing everything you're supposed to do. I even saw a guard that wasn't like keeping up with. They have this new thing that they want us to write the logs in the book. Not keeping up with how we're supposed to write it. They even wrote a note in the thing about how we're supposed to write it. He started doing it a little bit, then I noticed he stopped doing it again. He's not worrying about his job. He's chilling because he's not targeted. I'm doing everything by the book, and I still have to worry about losing my job or them making up some fictitious reason to remove me from the post as some sort of retribution because I'm reacting to abuse. Last night, they started beaming me with the energy weapon for no reason. I was just sitting there innocently working on my workout routine. They started beaming me with the energy weapon. So I started playing one of my videos, the last video that I posted. All of a sudden, the supervisor pulls up. And then she says to me, oh, by the way, the BOC for the job, I'm not going to name the name of the facility. The managers have been complaining about the logs. You've been logging every car that comes in, right? I said, yes. They know full well I do. That's one of the reasons why they had me training people, because I'm so good at logging in the on the log sheet, logging the cars coming in, and I'm remembering all of the names, and I'm getting all the plate numbers, even when all the guards are flying through, excuse me, COs are flying through in the morning because they're trying to get into the clock in machine and they don't want to stop. Multiple cars, 7 sometimes back to back, and I'm getting every plate number and name. And they start chirping the bird and doing stuff in the background because they know I'm good at it. It's not really that complicated, and I have good memory. But nonetheless, they know full well I'm logging everything. I'm definitely logging everything on the sheet. Oh, the BOC, excuse me, I'm not meaning to say the name of the place, right? The so-and-so managers have been complaining about the log sheets. Have you been, I said, yes. I said, you want to check the folders? And so when she's leaving, I thought in my head, I know why she pulled up and said that. It's because I'm playing this video because they randomly started beaming my head with the energy weapon. And then I said, why are they doing that? I was just sitting there innocently working on my workout routine. I was just changing it in my text messages. I keep updating my workout routine. I start noticing my head is like it's throbbing, and my eardrums are feeling that tinnitus feeling. I'm like, why are you hitting me with the energy weapon? They start chirping the bird. So then I threw on the last video that I was playing, the last video that I created where I was talking about the tactics they're using in the gym on me. Then in the morning, all of a sudden, anyway, so I put that video on, and then that's when the supervisor pulled up and said what she said. So I said, yeah, I've definitely been logging the logs. I said, you want to check the folders? And she said, no, I know. It's not about you specifically. They're just complaining in general. Some people haven't been, so I'm just letting you know. I said, oh, okay. I'm actually writing the thing to a T the way they told us to write it. It's like almost redundant how they have us writing the logs now. It doesn't even have to be that specific, but I'm doing it to a T just because they asked us to do it. I'm seeing a guard is kind of not even really doing it like that, to the point where they wrote a note in the group chat about us doing it, because I saw a couple actually that wasn't keeping up with it. And then now I'm noticing others are keeping up with it, and then I'm seeing one that's still kind of not doing it like how they're saying. I'm like, if I were to only do that, I have to have my I's dotted and my T's crossed, and I still have to worry about my position because they're doing underhanded random torture tactics, and I'm reacting and saying something about it. So now I have to worry about my job being threatened and blackmailed. And I really know what this is about too. It's more than, like I said, that's the coup de grace. That's the main thing right now. That's the main revenge thing they're trying to get back, is because of this dude from the gym and an interaction I had with his girlfriend 4 months ago. But it's really just ties back to him in general and what took place between him and I at the end of 2024 when he was humiliated. Anyway, so nonetheless, look at them flying the fly there. It's just like crazy. And when he started with me first, it's just like madness, man. It's like crazy fucking shit I'm dealing with, y'all. Anyway, so I forgot what else I was gonna say. It's more than that though. It's like they're angry at me because if you listen to this video, not the last video I posted, this one that says targeted individual reactive abuse documentation and career update, you'll hear what happened 3 days ago. Y'all, hold on a minute. Not 3 days ago. It didn't happen 3 days ago, y'all. It happened last week, but I made a video about it. I posted a video about it 3 days ago where, you know, remember I told you they've been hinting hard that I was going to get my job back as a corrections officer. They've been hinting that hard to me. And they even posted me, like I said, at a security post at the facility. They gave me a lot of hours, so I was grateful for that. But then outside of the job, they keep doing these underhanded, like, bullying, gang stalking tactics, so it's confusing. So one morning they were doing, you know, again, like this subliminal thing where they're hinting that I've talked about it in these recent videos. You have to watch the recent videos to know what I'm talking about, y'all. Doing the thing that they do where they're hinting, you know, that I'm going to get my job back. And they had just the week prior done the same thing. And then I went to the store and there was some bullying, gang stalking stuff set up. So I just sat there in this kind of reserved, anxious kind of like way. I didn't act excited or whatever reaction it was that they expected out of me. And so next thing you know, I come home and I get a call from the Department of Education. So it was just like, it's like this weird thing where they were testing me. Listen to that video, y'all. Check out the targeted individual reactive abuse documentation video. Listen to that whole video. I'm not about to rehash what took place in this video. But I noticed after that, you know, I noticed that night was when they started hitting me with the energy weapon at work. They were not using that on me at work. They started doing that in some other subtle things. You know, and so listen again to that video, like I said, y'all. because I went into detail about how unfair that whole thing was and you punishing me for being reserved and feeling like on edge because you keep doing bipolar stuff. So anyway, and you know full well too, I would definitely take a job teaching again. You know that's what I've done for years, and you know that's what I was trying to do. So I mean, I would gladly take the job as a correction officer too, but if they offer me a job to teach, you know I'm going to do it. Duh. That's common sense. That has nothing to do with me sitting there reserved because you keep doing bipolar things where you're acting like I'm going to get the job back, but then I'm leaving and these gang stalking, bullying tactics are being done. It's just weird stuff, man. Like, I can't deal with it. So anyway, so nonetheless, y'all, I talked about it in detail in that video, but since then I think they've been kind of angry with me. I really do. Because it's like, again, last night was this bipolar thing where yesterday when I got off in the morning, they were, using the color teal and whatever else was going on, and it seemed like things were okay. And then last night, randomly, they start beaming me with the energy weapon while I'm on the post. That's relatively new, that tactic. It started after that thing with the Department of Education where they started beaming me on the job with the energy weapon. They weren't doing that before. So it's like a double whammy, man. I think they're still holding on to stuff with this dude from the old gym. That's mainly what the recent tiff and the horrible treatment has been about these last 4 months. But then, like, underlying because of what happened last week with the Department of Education, I'm like, huh? Like, what the fuck? You're punishing me for that? Really? It's just I don't understand. Anyway, so there's this dude, too, that they're putting on top of me in the new gym. They've kind of been using him off and on. He hasn't been, like, a stable gang stalker. I see him off and on. It's like he just linger around. I could tell he's a gang stalker because I know who he is. But it's not like this on top of me thing like what they've been doing the last week. Now, he's brothers with this dude from the old gym. I talked about him last year in videos from last year. I don't care to talk about it again because I don't care about these people. I don't even know them like that. I don't know why they're inserting themselves in my targeting. So anyway, before I started working out in the new gym, this thing happened. I never talked about it, because I didn't want to embarrass the dude or whatever. I feel like they took on whatever reaction it was that I had to what he did. Another one of these things, right, where you making random enemies from every corner of every crevice of the island, and you don't even know these people. I think that's why he was doing the weird bipolar stuff he was doing in the old gym, because he was doing weird stuff before I even had the main tiff with this main dude from the old gym. Before I started working out in the old gym, when I had just started working out in the house, right before I got my membership in the old gym, that was when I was working on trying to become a corrections officer. I spent buku money for that job, y'all. I spent $300 to get a Virgin Islands driver's license. It's a long story why that happened. My license in the States was suspended, gang stalking, targeting. They totally canceled out my license because I didn't pay the ticket from Indiana with the police officer, that gang stalking incident that happened with that police officer. The only ticket I've ever gotten, by the way, y'all, aside from the tickets that I got down here for the car accidents, the only ticket, again, these are all due to targeting. Any ticket that I've ever gotten in my life was after age 29 and after my targeting started. Prior to that, I never even got a speeding ticket. Anyway, nonetheless, so I didn't pay that ticket. I forgot to pay that ticket that I got in Indiana when I tried to relocate off island. So they just totally canceled my license. It's completely targeting. You're not going to cancel somebody who has a good standing license who's never gotten a ticket before. You're not going to completely cancel you suspend it. You're not going to cancel a license because somebody didn't pay a ticket. It was targeting. Anyway, so they completely canceled my license. And so I had to go through this rigmarole thing to get a Virgin Islands license down here. And I had to pay $300. So all of this was for the correction officer job, Pay big $200 for boots. All kind of money. I spent almost, I want to say almost $500 to $600 trying to get that job. Anyway, so nonetheless, while I was dealing with the license thing, and this is also why I believe this tiff happened kind of with the next door neighbor too. The only ones on this street that I truly would say we know like that, where, the older lady was best friends with my grandma. And then their son is good friends with one of the gang stalkers, the Chris guy from the old gym, they allowed him to be at the house and do gang stalking, bully and stuff for 2 weeks straight. Anyway, I believe this is why, though, because of this thing that happened here. Around the same time with the thing with this dude from the gym's brother. It's just a lot, y'all. Stupid little petty stuff that if I weren't targeted, I wouldn't have to deal with it. So there was like a notary there. There's a notary near the DMV, but it's like up the road. And so I was working on getting the driver's license and I had to get something notarized. So I went to that office to get something notarized, and the daughter of this neighbor, well, the granddaughter, right, of the lady was in there. And she was working. I didn't recognize her. And so my younger sister was with me. And I guess my younger sister has seen her in recent years. The last time I saw her, she was a little girl. So, of course, I don't recognize her. This is years later. Really? And I'm pretty good with faces, but I couldn't see good. The glass was tinted. I'm not expecting her to be there. I just did not recognize her. And so she looked older to me. I thought it was an older person. I wouldn't have even thought it was her. And it's not older as in like I'm saying she looks bad or she looks old or haggardy. That's not what I'm saying. Many people look mature for their age. I used to look mature for my age too. I wasn't insulting her. But anyway, so I didn't recognize her. And so when we left out, my sister was telling her hi. I just thought it was somebody my sister knew. I didn't know it was this girl that was the granddaughter of these neighbors. So when we get to the car, and I'm going off on a tangent, y'all, but I'm just remembering that this happened too, because all of this kind of played into the facilitating of whatever they were trying to do with this dude in the gym. Why he was able to use one of these gang stalkers in the neighborhood right next to my house. Because unfortunately, that guy is best friends with the neighbor's grandson. Anyway, so when we got to the car, my sister said, hey, why didn't you tell so-and-so hi? And I said, that was so-and-so? Innocently, and again, if we weren't on camera, this wouldn't have been a thing. These people wouldn't have had a problem with me. They wouldn't have been beefing with me and catching attitude with me because of something I said innocently. I said, that was so-and-so. I said, oh my God. I said, I didn't even recognize her. She looks so much older. She doesn't look her age. She looks mature. I thought that was somebody like around my age or something. I think is what I said. Something along those lines. I said, I didn't recognize her at all. I was like, isn't she Melchi's age or something? And she was like, yeah, Melchi's my younger brother. Like around their age, my younger brother's ages, which is not that big of an age gap, y'all. Hello, we're siblings. I'm 10 years older than my youngest brother, and my other younger brother, I'm 8 years older than. So yeah, there's a little age gap, but it's not that huge of an age gap. When you have that age gap, it can look relative, especially when you're in your 20s and your 30s. The age can, especially if you're aging how you're supposed to and you're, just like a regular person, the ages look similar. 20s to 30s, I would say the ages look similar, unless you're drugging and doing drugs and stuff and you're really looking hard. So me saying that comment, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I think they took offense to it. It's just some of the gang stalking stuff I noticed with, it wasn't like hardcore gang stalking at first, but it's like, especially specifically with the girl's dad. I noticed I kept seeing him in certain places and it just stuff revving in here with a Jeep and I just noticed. I knew something was up. And then it's like what they did with the Chris thing. Obviously, you're feeling some kind of way towards me for you to let this Chris guy come and do whatever gang stalking thing he did for 2 weeks straight. It was bullying stuff he was doing too. So anyway, that happened. So I made, it seems like, enemies that day with people I knew, like you could say my whole life, right? For something simple and innocent. And then that same day too, while I'm walking to the car from the notary, it was another day. It wasn't that same day, but it was still around the same time period where I was dealing with my license. I had to go back to the notary again. This day, my sister was not with me. So I'm walking to my car and there's like some juice shop. I don't even know if it's still open. It looked like a juice bar or something like that, right? Natural juices or whatever. I'm walking by, and I hear a lot of talking coming out of the juice bar. And it's like they stopped talking when I was walking by, like they saw me walking by. So it was the dude, not the dude's brother that they're using on me now, but the dude from the old gym that I've talked about in old videos from last year, y'all. There are several gang stalkers I've talked about, so I know you're not going to know who I'm talking about. Really, it's going to just sound random unless you've really been adamantly keeping up with my videos. But still, I'm talking about it in this video, y'all, because it's just weird to me. These random beefs with random people I don't know or care about. It's just strange to me. And you're attaching yourself to the targeting. I'm like, what? Leave me alone. Get away from me. That's how I feel. I sound like a bitch, but that's how I feel. When you're dealing with this type of thing for so many years, that's how you start feeling. Like, get away from me. Especially when, it's some negative, weird stuff. So anyway, so I walk outside the juice bar. The dude fly outside, right? And he flew out and he said something to me. I couldn't hear him good. I think I was probably wearing earphones. I'm always wearing earphones. He flew out and he said, what? And he said something. It was probably gang stalking anyways. God only knows. But it's like, I'm not responding. I'm so used to dealing with gang stalking. I'm dealing with so much stuff. I'm trying to get stuff together for this job. I'm not studying some dudes in my ear saying whatever. So he was saying something about what? Something. I didn't even hear him. I just looked at him. I just turned my head and I kept walking. Then it's like he got bassety and he said, whoa, is that a black cat? And he started like he's focusing on the cat or something. It's like he got bassety because how I reacted. I wasn't a bitch. I just didn't really acknowledge whatever it was he was saying. So then after that, I kind of catch on to who he is. Because like I said, their family is well known. Because there was some big scandal with their younger sister. Actually, like right as my targeting started, before it went viral. The years when my targeting first started, before it was viral and island-wide, was when this thing with their sister was happening. I don't want to go into the details of it because she didn't do anything to me. And the one encounter I did have with her in the past was pleasant. She seems like a decent, pleasant person. I think she was just having mental health issues. You know, the funny thing is too, whenever whatever was happening with her was happening, you know, you saw people like supporting her, it seemed like, on Facebook at first. And then she started putting up certain videos, I think, due to mental health. And a lot of them started bullying and saying mean, nasty things underneath her videos on her Facebook and stuff. And my family and myself, we were some of the few people that were still saying supportive stuff under her videos because it's obvious she was dealing with mental health issues. But you have a lot of bullies down here. There are a lot of people that are very mean. So anyways, nonetheless, you would think they would be empathetic with what happened with their sister. They want to be at the forefront of the targeting and hopping on top of me. I think they're just happy that, you know, it's another family that the light is on and the scandal is happening with. Like, thank God, let's get the lights off us now. I think that's what it is. I honestly do. Anyway, so nonetheless, that's how I know, that's not how I know the girl, actually. I know about her before the big scandal with her, where she was losing her mind and making these viral videos that were going viral. I'm not going to go into the details about whatever with her. The people that saw that dude at the gym today know exactly what I'm talking about. And the other people that don't know, oh well. I'm not blasting this girl's business, right? The light is finally off her. Let that be, right? But anyway, I knew about her before whatever was going on with her because she dated the same guy as my younger sister way back in the day. You know, this much older guy. I don't want to talk about him either because I believe that also ties into why they use the other Chris on me in the gym. It's a lot, y'all. This thing is deep. It's a lot of elements to this thing, y'all. It's like freaking layer after layer after layer. I can't say too much because it could get me into problems. But this is also too why I said what I said. I was flipping out. Really, I was just losing it because I was dealing with what I was dealing with. I was seeing certain people who had done certain things on Island that didn't ever go through what I went through. And they actually did certain things that quote unquote would resemble what the fake narrative was with me. This is why, you know, I started running my mouth and saying too much, and that's, I created more enemies. This is gonna sound like cold talk, y'all. I can't really, it's complicated. But there was this guy that also has the same name as that Chris guy, right? That my sister actually did date or deal with, whatever. I have to be careful, y'all. I'm saying sister and stuff, I could get in trouble for this. Because even though it's like she's talked about this stuff on camera and she knows this thing is viral and everybody is familiar with the situation, she still does this weird like gaslighting thing where she'll pretend like she heard my video and then act like she's cussing me out for mentioning certain things that she's already said on camera and she knows it's viral and everyone on Island already knows. Like, it's this weird gang stalking tactic. I don't feel like dealing with her. Like, it's been an up and downhill battle with her too these recent months. It's been a lot of stuff going on. I do not feel like dealing with that. I'm only mentioning it because I'm talking about that area, what happened with this dude, and then I remember that other thing that happened with the Chris thing. It's so much stuff, y'all. So many layers to this weird ass shit. I just want to get out of it and get away from it, y'all. Anyway, y'all, let me blow my nose and I'll come back. I'm going to try to clear things up because it's going to sound like I'm talking a bunch of crazy stuff if you haven't been keeping up with my videos. It's going to sound like a bunch of confusing stuff that I'm talking about. Let me blow my nose. I'm tired too. And catch myself, and then I'll come back and like clarify certain things. So y'all, just to clear... So y'all, just to clear things up, what this video is about, I probably will do a precursor video anyway, but just to clear things up so things are clear throughout the remaining duration of the video, this is a continuation of the abuse that I've been receiving that I don't deserve. So, still just weird bipolar activity. Like I told y'all, they're doing this weird thing in the new gym, especially, you know, recently since I've recovered from my injury, where they're like using gang stalkers to impede the workout. But gang stalkers that they felt like I would feel scared to say something about, like an elderly person or an elderly white person, you know, that's like double sensitization, and I'm already villainized for certain things, right? And they've created false narratives about things too. So they'll use like an elderly person to, you know, be in the area, hanging around, lingering around, and keep making the person talk to me and interrupt my sets. Like I'm in the middle of a set and making the person stop and talk to me. So obviously I don't want to be rude and say, you know, hey, I'm trying to work out, you know, you're interrupting my set. Can we talk after? Or, you know, something like that. I'm just going to feel awkward and on camera, and, you know, I feel on the spot, and I'm going to keep talking to the person and the workout's getting impeded. That's just one thing, y'all. And it's like also disingenuous too, because these low-key bullying innuendos are being thrown into the conversation too, or like weird things like I'm listening to a song and the word devil is mentioned and then the person comes and talks to me, like things like that. And also understand too, I'm already sensitive and on edge because they had a gang stalker when in the gym that came next to me, a white guy with a green hat on. I knew he was a gang stalker, duh. And he came next to me and acted like he was helping me. This was before my injury, when I was still deadlifting 300, I think it was 360 pounds or 370 pounds, something like that. Like I was almost to 400. And he's coming next to me and, you know, acting like he's making conversation with me. And I knew he was a gang stalker. You know, I knew it was like similar tactics to what was happening in the old gym. But in my head, I'm not thinking it's the same stupid drama from the old gym following me and them still trying to be petty and bully me. I'm thinking, okay, this is maybe like some sort of positive, constructive gang stalking where maybe they're trying to extend an olive branch and show camaraderie between me and, I guess you could say, that race that I offended. That's what I thought it was. So I was talking to him. I felt awkward and uncomfortable. So I'm sure I looked awkward, but it didn't look fake. Like the interaction I had with the two elderly guys, especially the elderly white guy, I'm not a fake person, so it's hard for me to fake when I feel like something's disingenuous. And it felt fake. The whole interaction felt fake, but I was still trying to be pleasant. It felt weird. It wasn't like with the guy with the green hat where he was actually a good actor, and I thought he was coming from a positive space where I was conversing with him and it was flowing. It was free flowing. It wasn't me being thirsty. I wasn't looking at him like that. Again, another one of these people I said in the video when I talked about that interaction, y'all. If you look at this video, the health scare video, you'll hear the whole rundown of what took place with that injury and with that gang stalker. But that's to tell you I was being genuine with him, because it's to the point where he even felt comfortable enough to put the can of the drink down, because I was acting genuine and open with him, and I wasn't, seeming reserved and guarded. And so anyways, it wasn't me being thirsty. I definitely wasn't looking at him like that. He was an obvious gang stalker with the big green hat, and he didn't even look like a honeypot. It's not even somebody I would look twice at. He wasn't like bad looking. He was just like average Joe. Like I was not looking at him like that at all. I even said it wasn't like the Italian guy where the aesthetic seems honeypotish. Like it wasn't that at all. So I was like, what are you putting the drink down for? I'm not looking at you like that. I thought you were like extending an olive branch, sir. So anyway, he was conversing with me and it seemed friendly, and he's a good actor. So I thought he was being friendly and coming from a positive space, and I conversed back with him. I let him help me put the plates on the barbell. And, turns out it was just like bullying. After he helped me with the plates, I went over to the rack where the plates that I was pulling off and switching out, was located. And I noticed there was a drink sitting there, a drink that wasn't there before. So I remember looking at it and, kind of feeling uneasy. And then he walks up and he does a smirk and he grabs the drink and then disappears. So it was all bullying. And then the whole interaction caused me to get basity and distracted, because this is what it is. It's these manipulative tactics to distract me from my workout and impede my workout. Anyway, so I got so distracted, the plates were not put on properly. And so one side of the barbell was loaded heavier than the other side when I did the big 370 pound, whatever weight it was I was doing back then. It was anywhere from 350 to 370 that I was deadlifting. I got that heavy, y'all, before my injury. I did a deadlift that's that heavy, and it was an improper deadlift. I noticed when I was standing up, I felt my back hunching over. And that's the first thing they'll teach you when you're deadlifting heavy, is how important form is, because you could slip a disc. As a female, you could drop an organ. You could have organ prolapse happen. Anything can happen because it's an extreme amount of pressure being put on your body. And so I noticed I'm trying to stand up. I'm like, damn it, maybe I didn't, maybe I didn't eat enough this morning or whatever. That was before I was doing the 1 meal a day thing, and before I had changed my diet. I was like, damn, what did I eat for breakfast? I was trying to think in my head what I ate, because it's typically not that difficult. But I remember my back kind of hunching, and I'm still just trying to do the lift, because I know I'm capable of doing it. I've been doing it. So I remember just feeling like, damn, why is this so hard today? My back was, bending and stuff, but I did the lift anyway with the imbalance, with the weight not properly balanced. And it wasn't until I was taking the plates off that I realized 4 plates. I forgot how it was. It's however many plates I had on the thing, y'all. I can't even remember what the weight was. Like I said, it was anywhere from 350 to 370. But there were more plates on the left side than the right side. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, I wasn't angry at the time either, even though I realized that he, was just a bully, and it was just more bullying and begrudging gang stalking. So anyways, I just was like, dang, that's why it was so difficult. But I didn't realize I had injured myself. I felt like some soreness in my lower back, and the oblique area that, to me was looking swollen felt kind of tight. But I wasn't feeling any like major, differences to realize like I had an injury. I didn't realize I had an injury. I just like felt like this achy feeling in my lower back and in my lower region, but it wasn't like this definitive feeling of something dropping. And then that same week, the next day I did, like I said, the crunches. So it was just like this snowball effect to the injury. It was like, of all weeks is when I decided to do like this new workout where I was doing crunches to failure. And so the next day I did crunches to failure, and I started feeling this extreme ache in that lower area. And I was like, okay, well, this is just from me crunching to failure. That's just the, muscle tearing, like I really did the damn thing. I got to do this workout more often is what I was thinking. I was thinking results, like I did something good. And then the third day I went and I did sprints. I was still running at that time. I'm not doing running sprints anymore. I'm now doing cycling. So my sprints are on the cycle just to avoid the pressure, the intra-abdominal pressure. Now that I've healed myself, I'm more cognizant of intra-abdominal pressure. Now that I learned what I learned about organ prolapse and hernias and what I learned, and thank the Most High that wasn't what was going on with me. Now that I learned about that stuff, I'm very careful. I'm moving very careful. I'm not even deadlifting anymore. Right now, I feel good enough to deadlift again. I feel like I could start deadlifting again. I'm not doing it. I'm squatting heavier. I'm squatting 205 pounds. I'm actually putting all of the pressure on my back. Like when you're taught how to squat, they teach you to inhale when you're going down so that you can have intra-abdominal pressure. You want that intra-abdominal pressure because it helps support you. It makes you more upright and it gives you more support. The pressure and the air inside of your abdominal cavity helps with the lift. So they teach you to inhale and put air in your stomach before you squat down because it helps with supporting you with a heavier lift. Because I'm so afraid of intra-abdominal pressure and organ prolapse and all these things, I'm purposely training my brain to squat like somebody that has organ prolapse even though I don't have it. Because they were teaching you in these videos that I was watching when I still thought that was what I had going on. They were teaching how to squat if you do have organ prolapse, and they say avoid intra-abdominal pressure. So you have to train the brain to do the opposite of what you're taught when you're taught how to squat. Instead of inhaling and getting the intra-abdominal pressure to support with the lift, they're telling you to exhale and just, while you're going down, breathe out and push the air out. So there's a minimal amount of air and pressure, intra-abdominal pressure. So of course that makes the lift more difficult though, because you don't have that support. And I'm not wearing a belt anymore because the belt does something similar where it increases intra-abdominal pressure and it helps you with core stability. I'm squatting raw with no belt and I'm not holding the air in my stomach and I'm squatting 205 pounds. And I'm just training myself to use my back as the support, as the main support. And I'm keeping myself upright and I'm breathing out while I'm doing it because I want to avoid intra-abdominal pressure. So I'm very anal about how I'm training now, y'all, because I don't want to get injured again. And that was the scare of a lifetime, especially being targeted to the level that I'm targeted on a small island in a small community where the hospital, is full of people that don't necessarily care for me. So anyway, it's just scary, man. It's scary. It's scary stuff, scary work. Anyway, not to go off on a tangent though, y'all. So understand why I'm guarded though. Because I was completely genuine with that guy with the green cap and he had bad intentions and I got injured. So it's like with these new gang stalkers, especially when it's obvious that you're a gang stalker, you're doing the symbol before you even interact with me. With the other old guy, before they even inserted the white guy, the manipulative tactic they were using, when they were still using the black elderly guy, he kept talking to me every time I'm doing a set. He did it several times, interrupting my sets. Or he'll stand up in the background and just kind of like wait for me to finish the set and like he's staring at me while I'm doing the set. That feels uncomfortable, man. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Like I said, I don't care if you're white, blue, purple, yellow. I don't care if you're 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70, 80. It's the same thing. That doesn't feel comfortable, man. And I'm an introverted person too, and these cameras are on me. I just want to work out in peace and go home. Why is that so hard? So anyways, y'all, so I've just been more guarded with gang stalkers and stuff, and more like on edge. I'm not being bitchy or snappy, especially when it's somebody elderly, but I know it's not the interaction doesn't seem genuine because I know it's not. And I'm not a fake person. As much as they like to send the fake thing, I'm not. If I knew how to fake the funk, I would have been out of this thing, y'all. I've never been a social butterfly. I'm socially awkward. I'm an introverted person. I always have been. No, I'm not some loner that can't make friends. I've had friends throughout my life. I've lived a normal life. I know how to function in society. But I'm an introvert. I'm not going to turn into some social butterfly that knows how to put on a fake face to appease gang stalkers or whatever weird thing they want with the program. Gang stalkers that are not genuine. I don't even know how to do that anyway. I don't know how to be fake. Like, you know how a lot of people that are social butterflies are fake, just so you know. That's what it is. They're good at faking. And they know how to socialize and put on a good face. And like, I've never been that kind of person. I'm just like really genuine. And either this is a genuine interaction and yeah, I'm still going to be a little shy, but I'm open. Or it's not a genuine interaction and I'm acting guarded. It is what it is. And I'm now just finally bouncing back from a major injury that was due to gang stalking, and you're sticking people up on top of me again to interfere with my workout because you're holding a grudge for this guy from the old gym. That's what it's about. And you've recruited white people. Of course, they're going to hop on board. Like I said, I shared offensive stuff in my car in Florida 4 years ago, by the way, that I've apologized over. I don't even know how many times I've apologized now, y'all. But still, of course, it's going to be easy to recruit them. Of course. They think I'm a bitch. They're going to do whatever you tell them to do. And they're going to go whatever false narrative it is that you're trying to perpetuate. Because you know that's not what it's about. When you're using the guys in purple who created the content and who are sharing the content, however often they're sharing it. They were even out there on Thanksgiving Day with big posters in front of Plaza, in front of the grocery store, sharing info. You're using them as gang stalkers on me, but you're pretending like this is about white people. That's not what it's about. Now they're pulling old shit out with the cyber stalking, cyberbullying dude. That chapter has been closed. They even revealed their hand a couple months ago when they first started amping up with the punishment because of what happened. Look at the cat now. When they first started amping up with the punishment, right? Because of what happened with the man and his girlfriend from the old gym, where she was having a malfunction when I took my shades off and she saw my picture and she started to malfunction and insult me. I still didn't diss the girl, you know. Anyway, that was where they really amped up in the punishment and they started doing all kinds of stuff, slinging stuff at me, coming for my self-esteem, throwing innuendos in the technology about sex tapes, this, that, the third. That's what it's about. It's not about the cyber stalking, cyberbullying guy, because that thing been done and over with, and they know full well why I talked about it in my videos. But nonetheless, I've already apologized, and they already accepted it, and they stopped sending stuff about that. All of a sudden, now they're acting like that's what it's about too. That's not what it's about. All of a sudden now they're sticking his brother in the bakery and his cousin at the store, and people I haven't seen. I've been down here for 4 years. I haven't seen these people. All of a sudden in these last 4 months, because they know they did some real unfair shit, all of a sudden you're sticking all these people. All of a sudden they're inserting themselves recently in the targeting. Huh? You know full well that's not what it's about. Anyway, so especially when we already closed the chapter and I made a whole video apologizing and talking about why I talked about the thing in the first place. You validated it. You know full well why I talked about it. It's done and over with. I haven't talked about it in eons. All of a sudden, you're now trying to throw that into the mix because you're trying to like make up for the unfair stuff that you did. And it was all as a clap back for this dude from the gym and his girlfriend. And the punishment really is because however the girlfriend looks, I'm just saying it now. That's why they're insulting me and trying to come for my self-esteem. I'm just keeping it real. I'm not Halle Berry, but I'm attractive. I don't care what you say. And they know full well I look better than his girlfriend. I'm just saying it in the video now, y'all. I'm saying it now because I've tried to be nice and they keep punishing me and doing all these underhanded things, and I know that's what it's about. And coming for my self-esteem and stuff. I know it's about this man and his girlfriend. And what they were trying to do as like revenge because of whatever that happened in 2024. And then it backfired with the thing with his girlfriend. Like, I know what it's about, man. She was malfunctioning and whatever else was happening. She started to insult me. I still did not insult her. I don't care. I don't give a rat's ass about these people. I want to live my life. I'm done with it. I don't care. 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 Now they're pulling out the cyberstar, but they're pulling out the big stops. It's been 4 years since I've been back. There was a time where that with him specifically, he was the main thing in the targeting, and they kept, doing all kinds of stuff with the targeting because I had said certain things in videos. The man never made an appearance. I didn't apologize, closed that thing off. They know full well why I talked about and what was happening in the old neighborhood and the bets and whatever else, because recently they revealed their hand. In these recent months, they were talking about bets and stuff when they were hinting at sex tapes and stuff with some of these dudes, like there were bets going. It's crazy. Look at the flying the plane now. So you know full well why I talked about what I talked about in the videos. Anyway, nonetheless, I closed it off. Since like 2 years ago, I'd already apologized in a video and let's listen to the plane, y'all. Listen. This is crazy. That's absolutely crazy and ludicrous. Anyway, y'all, so I've already apologized for whatever with him. That stopped being a thing. They stopped talking about him. It's all been about this man in the gym. That's what everything has been about now. All of a sudden now I feel like they're desperately looking for anything that they can use now, because they have really messed up with me with what they've been doing these last few months. They've been doing some real unfair stuff. All of a sudden now, randomly, you're not even a topic anymore. I've already apologized. The thing's closed off. All of a sudden, he's writing me a message now. They pop his brother in the bakery. His cousin was outside the store. No, you're just trying to pull out anything to validate what you've done to me these last few months for that man in the gym and his girlfriend. And whatever weird interaction happened there. I can't help how she looks, and I can't help how I look. I'm not Halle Berry, but I look better than her. I don't care what you say. And that's what the problem is. Because you think I'm a bitch, and you think I embarrassed him at the end of 2024, even though he started with me first. So you pulled the girlfriend out of some sort of tactic. That didn't work. I didn't care. I wasn't intimidated. Then the thing what she and I happened, and it was a big fail. That's what this is about. It's not about the cyber stalking, cyberbullying dude anymore. Although that's an underlying thing. I think that's a grudge that's being held still, for sure. Definitely. But that's not what these last 4 months have been about. Stop it. You're pulling out anything. You have not pulled that man out. It's been 4 years you ain't pulled that man out. I know they're getting desperate when he's messaging me on Facebook. It's really getting bad now. Because it's not about that. It's not about the white people. It's not about him. Stop it. Y'all, let me finish this video I'll finish this video in a minute. Anyway, y'all, let me get back to the Chris thing that I was saying in the first clip. I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but y'all, if you've been keeping up with my videos over the course of the last 4 months, you'll know that there was a Chris that they used. I think I just talked about him in the last video or the video before that one. There was a Chris that they used as a gang stalker on me in the old gym. And the reason they used him, I think there were 2 reasons, and it all ties back to this person in my close circle. I actually mentioned the relationship, the person, in the last clip, and I didn't mean to do that. Because like I said, she does this fake gang stalking, gaslighting thing where she'll pretend like she heard the video and like she's cussing me stink. Why are you talking about me in your videos? When it's like stuff she said on camera first, and she knows that these cameras are there and that the whole island is watching. It's this weird gaslighting weird thing she does. I can't deal with it. It drives me crazy, literally. And that's the intention with targeting. But anyway, so I'm going to say the person in my close circle, even though I accidentally said the relationship in the last clip, if you were listening. She and I have talked about this in multiple videos. We're having a conversation on my bed in 2023. And I was just tired of having like what felt like disingenuous combos with her. Because anything that we're talking about, and I know the whole island's watching, it doesn't feel genuine. And I know that you know that the cameras are there and that everybody's looking. So it's like there are certain things I don't feel comfortable saying and that I just wouldn't say. And she was so enthralled or it wrapped up in trying to, I think, do the tactic of making me feel crazy and acting like these cameras aren't there, that she was saying stuff on camera that is like, hello, the island's watching. She keeps doing that and putting her foot in her mouth. I think she learned her lesson now. But just trying to do the tactic, because they do that sometimes. I've had other people do that too, not just her. Well, they'll talk to you about something that you know they would ordinarily not say if they knew everyone was looking, but they'll purposely like have that type of conversation with you anyway, like to make you feel crazy. But then sometimes they're low-key doing it to take a stab or a dib at somebody they have a problem with. Because I had a supervisor do that to another supervisor, where he's having a conversation with me about the other supervisor, and he's well aware of the fact that she and the whole island's watching. He was saying some really mean stuff. So I think he has a problem with her. And I think this was one of those moments with this person in my close circle where she still had whatever feeling, which is understandable if you hear the whole history of what happened with this person. But anyway, she was having whatever feeling still, I think, towards him, and she used the targeting, I think, as a way to say however she felt on camera in front of all these people. But anyway, so in 2023, we're having this conversation on my bed, like I said, about all these different guys. We were just talking about the past and guys that we've dated and guys that my older sister dated. My older sister wasn't there for the conversation. She lives in the States with her husband and her children. But oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm not supposed to mention relationships. Anyway, but me and this person in my close circle that was having the conversation, we were talking about guys that we dated in the past and stuff. And several guys got mentioned, and I was very guarded with the way I was saying things. Like, I was saying certain things, but there were certain things that I would have probably said if the cameras weren't there that I didn't say. And she was just, like, completely, like, balls in, like, saying whatever about whoever, you know? So, 2 Chris's got brought up in that conversation. There's a Chris from back in the day, from when she was in elementary school, that wasn't her age range. He was in the same grade as her, or I believe he was 1 grade ahead of her, that she had a crush on. And it's a similar aesthetic. That Chris, I don't know what his mix is, but he looks mulatto, but I don't know what his mix is. I don't believe he's mulatto, because I've seen his mom and she looks mixed too. I don't know what they are. They remind me of like Frauleins. Do you know what if you're familiar with Frauleins, or Frauleins are basically like this, I don't want to say a race, but it's like these biracial people in Germany. So it's like a bunch of mulattoes got together and just kept mixing with mulattoes, and it created like this thing. They're called Frauleins, and it's similar to the Hispanic race too, because if you look at the origin of Hispanic people, that's pretty much what it is. It was like a set of mulattoes that kept mixing with each other, and then you had a little bit of Indian get mixed in and whatever else, and it created a whole nationality and ethnicity of people. But anyway, so I don't know what this, long story short, I'm not meaning to go off on a tangent, but it's like a similar aesthetic. They look nothing alike. They look absolutely nothing alike. But it's a similar aesthetic where that's what she used to like. She used to like these mixed looking type of dudes, and then her taste like totally changed. I don't know if she got traumatized from the main Chris that actually did something, or what happened, but that's what she used to like, and now it's like the opposite. She typically now more so, actually, I don't think really she has any specific, I think it's really just whoever she's feeling at the time, because there are guys that I've seen like her that she didn't like that I would think she would like, and then guys that liked her that she did like, I was scratching my head about. I don't understand her taste. We both have completely different tastes, and she doesn't understand my taste either. There are guys I like, and I show her them, and she's like, huh? Like, so it's just, we don't understand each other's taste. Let's just put it that way. There was a point where we used to like a similar aesthetic, and then we both deviated off, and it's whatever. We're older now too, so it's less vanity, and it's more so about how the person makes us feel. But back then, that was what she used to like. She used to like these mixed looking guys, right? And so the first Chris that she liked, that was in her age range, had that kind of look, like this mulatto-ish type look, but I don't know what he is. I don't think he's actually mulatto. Whereas the Chris that she actually did end up having a thing with that was significantly older than her, and he was her teacher, her PE teacher. He is a mulatto. He's half white, half black. Anyway, y'all, there's yelling coming from the next room now. I can't focus. Let me let that finish, and I'm going to go into detail about this Chris thing, because there's a reason why, because I know that's partially why they did what they did with the other Chris. It's because whatever I said in the conversation when she was talking about the Chris first and saying whatever she was saying, lambasting whatever, and then I just interjected because I thought it was unfair. It was just like a reminder to me that he's not the only one. I've heard about other situations too that's happened here on island, and they were never targeted. It's just so unfair. But anyway, so I'm not meaning, because it's getting me worked up again, and what happens is I end up making enemies with people that are well connected, because he didn't do anything to me personally. I mean, I don't like how he did my sister, and back then we were all kind of like feeling some kind of way about it, but I mean, I don't know him personally, and it's like I threw him under, saying what she was saying first, but I interjected in a way that was really negative, and it was me more so projecting my own personal feelings about what I was going through and just thinking it was unfair. But anyway, I'm gonna come back on and finish this, y'all, in a minute. Y'all, it's the wee hours of the morning. Hold on a minute. It's the wee hours of the morning. I'm at work. As y'all can see, it's 5:15 a.m. And I was trying to wait till like these early hours to finish the video, y'all, because as you know, when you're targeted, there's a live feed. There's a camera on you, and everyone in the vicinity has access to the camera. It really just depends on what level your targeting is at. And I have a unique case, like I told you all, where I'm on a small island. It's a community of about 45,000 people. And to my knowledge, no one has ever been targeted before. So it's like this big fanfare with this thing, right? And they've given access to everyone on island. So it's really a hot mess, y'all. It's just like a nightmare, this targeting and everybody having access to the cameras. And I feel like a freak show, like I'm in a circus. It's terrible. So anyway, I want to finish talking about this guy, though. I tried, like I said, not to talk about specific people, especially as it pertains to people in my close circle, whether it's a relative or a friend and it's someone associated with them. I've gotten backlash for doing that before, but I can't help it. They're using some of these characters that are associated with people related to me or friends as gang stalkers to antagonize me. And there's a level of abuse and gaslighting that's coming with it too. So I just felt the need to, again, defend myself, because that's why I mentioned these people. I'm not sitting here mentioning it for fun. I'm mentioning these people because they relate to me directly as it pertains to my targeting. So anyway, let me finish talking about this older Chris, the one that she actually had a thing with, because I've talked about these guys in prior videos, y'all, recently especially. Like, if you check out that same video I went to in the first clip, that first clip where I was talking about, the start of my targeting amping up over the course of the last 4 months because of what happened with the personal trainer, the main one from the old gym that I had the big tiff with, and his girlfriend. And, this interaction they tried to set up in the old gym with her that backfired. That's what's led to, like, all the abuse that I've been receiving these last 4 months. That's mainly what it's been about. Anyway, in one of those videos, either that video I'm talking about right now, the first video, the part 1, sabotaging and gaslighting of the targeted individual, where you see me in my graduation outfit in the thumbnail, either that video or one of these videos in between, obviously not the poetry videos, but the content videos, right? One of these videos I've talked about the 2 Chris's. I believe it was that video, actually, or the part 2 to that video, or the part 3. One of those 3 videos, I went, into detail a little bit about the 2 Chris's, more so about the Chris that they used as a gang stalker on me in the gym. Yeah, more so about the Chris that they used as a gang stalker on me in the gym. Sorry for the cut, y'all. What happened is I continued on with what I was saying, and I accidentally mentioned the person that they're associated with in my close circle. Remember, I said I'm trying not to mention relationships, even though if you were listening to the first clip, not the second clip, the first clip, you all have heard me mention the relationship between the person and myself that has some sort of relativity with these people that they're using on me as gang stalkers, these Chris guys. Well, the Chris guy. Anyway, so that one that they used on me as a gang stalker in the gym, he didn't have anything with the person in my close circle. If you listen to those videos I just told you to listen to, you'll hear the whole rundown with him, because he's who I talked about more than the Chris that she actually did have something with that was significantly older than her. And that's because that's, like a touchy subject, and it's controversial, and she's already kind of lambasted everything that happened with him, and even started name dropping other young females that he supposedly dealt with back then. This was years ago, though, like 3 years ago. So it's kind of like I'm amping it up again now, but they're doing it. They keep constantly throwing this Chris thing at me, and I know why they're doing it. It's because of this conversation that took place in 2023, where both Chris's were mentioned, and the one that she actually did have something with, the older one that she feels like took advantage of her, he was mentioned, and she started, kind of lambasting what he did to her, and, certain things pertaining to him and other young females. And I just interjected, and I started saying some negative stuff. I started projecting Because remember, if y'all will recall, my targeting started because I sent a text message in 2020. And if you listen to my story, you'll hear what the text message was about. And it was related to some situations I had dealt with in Florida before I graduated and moved back home. What they created from the text message is ludicrous, y'all, what I've been through. But there was no validation of anything actually taking place other than me just sending this weird text, right? Whereas with this guy, there's validation that he's dealt with, at least for sure, this person in my close circle. But there's also speculation of other females, then that's kind of validated too, with some of them at least. And nothing ever happened to him. So she's sitting there. I just got back on island where we were having this conversation. Remember, I came back at the end of 2022. And I almost lost my life in the States when I tried to relocate because this targeting followed me. And they were painting this false narrative from the text message I sent. So I'm laying on the bed trying to be selfless and listen to her, but I can't focus. I'm in a weird mental state after what I've been through. And I'm sitting here listening to her talk about this guy and the things he did. And it's just a reminder, even though I knew, it was just like a reminder of someone else down here, because he's not the only one I know of that, did certain things that related to the fake narrative that was created from my text message. I'm just listening to all this stuff and I'm remembering what happened with him and what went down with him, and the fact that he's like scot-free, he's happy as can be, he's teaching still, because he is a teacher, he's a PE coach. And it just was so unfair to me, and I was enraged. And so I started to just piggyback off of the things she was already saying, and I started saying some negative things out the side of my neck about him. When before, with the situation, I was relatively quiet. One of the other people in our close circle that's in our age range, I mentioned her too in the first clip if you were listening, or the last clip I mentioned her. And I said she lives in the States where her husband and her children. Back then, when the thing was going on, when the thing was actually happening, she was a raging force because she's looking out for us. And that's just how she always has been, protective. She was going in on this man back then. She was, I think, going even more ham than the older person in our close circle. But the two of them were going ham on him, and I was relatively quiet. I was more so just a listening ear and giving advice to the person in my close circle that was associated with him. I never went in on the man because I'm more of a quiet, laid-back type of person, and I'm not a combative type of person. I'm protective, but I'm not combative. And at the time, this person in my close circle didn't want to listen to us, and she thought she was grown, and he kind of groomed her, is what it seems like. They had this underlying relation going on when he was her teacher, and then as soon as she graduated, this thing happened, and so it was almost like grooming. And this is the word she used too in 2023. She's saying now that she's older and she's looking back, she can realize how weird it was, the whole thing that went down. And she said now that she's grown, she's looking at people that was her age when she talked to him, and she realized that it was really like grooming what was done, right? So anyway, back then though, I was young myself because I'm close in age to her. We're like 4.5 years apart. So I was more so, like I said, just a listening ear and trying to give advice, but I wasn't one of those people that was on top, like the other two people in my close circle that was really going in on this man. But here now I'm on the bed and I'm just recalling the things that he did, and I'm just like, oh my God, he really got away with a lot, especially when she started mentioning other situations with him specifically. And I'm like, but and people knew about it too. In the school he was teaching at, people knew. One of the coaches that was my PE coach, she was my PE coach when I went to that school, went to the older person in my close circle and said, hey, look, I think something's going on with your daughter and this person. So people knew about it, and it's just like, he's this well-liked guy. He has a lot of friends, this cool guy, right? And so it never turned into anything. I'm just like, my God, I was like microchipped and tracked down and this and that and the third, and I just sent a text message. So I remembered I was flipping out, and I said some stuff out the side of my neck about him in that moment, when years prior I hadn't said really anything to or about him. More so just giving her advice, like, what are you doing? Come on now. Just trying to be like a reasoning voice in her head so she can think logically about the decisions that she made. Some people are even like, why didn't, questioning why the older person in my close circle didn't go to the police about it or take it further. And when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, they didn't though. But with me, your own relative, you threw me like to the damn dogs for a text message. Like, when I think about it, I'm trying not to be this way, y'all. But when I think about it, I'm just like, what WTF? When I think about it, y'all. But anyways, so nonetheless, whatever. I'm not trying to create enemies because, like I said, this guy is a big, big thing down here. Like, he knows a lot of people. He went to that private school. That private school is big stuff down here. You know, he has a lot of connections. He even, I think, owns a clothing line down here with a few of the guys down here. Well known, you know, so, you know, it is what it look. I done heard slight revving in the background. Like, this is the subjectivity and ignorance I'm dealing with some of the, because I don't even think that's anybody that has any relation with him. Sometimes they do noise campaigns out there on me at this hour of the morning, and it sounds like it's coming from the factory nearby. This would tell you it's not what they're pretending like it's about. It's not about the fake narrative from the text message. It's not about white people. It's some sort of grudge and personal issue with me. Just understand that. Because you have somebody who verified... Anyway, whatever. I'm trying to be careful with stuff, y'all. Nonetheless, so let me just... So that's what's going on. There were two Chris's, right, that we talked about in 2023 when we were laying on the bed. This Chris that was a grade ahead of her that she had a crush on when she was in elementary school. I think she was in, like, middle grade. That's how old the thing is. So I don't even know why they used him. It has to be tied to the other Chris. And some of the things I said where they just wanted, you know, and they even made noise campaign when I said that, right? So, I mean, so you're using a gang stalker as some sort of clapback for the other Chris that you know did stuff, but I'm targeted with cameras on me for sending a text. Anyway, so nonetheless, whatever, right? So we're on the bed talking about these two Chris's, and the younger one, the one that was a grade ahead of her, she had some crush on him in middle school. And that was before she broke out of her shell and stuff. So she was kind of like this, like, gawky, nerdy type of... She's tall. We're all tall. We're like Amazonian females in this family. And there's modeling that's taking place in the family as well. So I'm 5'8", flat. This person in my close circle that I'm talking about is 5'9". So she's an inch taller than me. And then the older one that I mentioned is a little bit shorter, but still tall, 5'7". So we're relatively tall females, not super tall. You know, you have some girls that are 5'11", you know, 5'10", etc. We're not super tall, but we are taller than the average female. Actually, I've walked around a lot of females that have been our height. To be honest, I think people are taller these days, honestly. But you would say we're tall for females, right? So anyway, back then, before she came into her own and developed and whatever, she was kind of like this gawky, you know, nerdy type of, like, person that before she kind of came out of her shell and her cocoon and turned into a butterfly. She was in the transition phase back then. So I still think this girl saw her as competition, though, because, like I said, she was transitioning. So anyway, this girl was with the guy that she had the crush on, and she had said innocently to her friends that she had a crush on him, and this girl was dating him. So apparently there was some party that these children were at, and she wasn't there at the party. And the girl was kind of like bullying her and telling him about, can you believe so-and-so likes you? And like making it like it's like a hot mess that she likes him. And it was turning into like this bullying thing. And I think, she said that somebody came back and told her he was laughing at what she said or something like that. I can't remember the specifics. But that was brought up on the bed. She brought it up. I didn't bring these people up. She was bringing up her people, like guys she dated or guys she had crushes on. I brought up my people. She even brought up some people for me. There's a guy that they used recently as a gang stalker on me, as she brought up. Anyway, so, and we were talking about some of the people for this other person in our close circle that doesn't live down here, that lives in the States with her husband and her children. So we're just talking, shooting the shit, like how, you know, people that know each other, relatives do sometimes when you just lay back and you're like, do you remember this? Do you remember that? That type of thing. But it didn't feel genuine because the cameras were there. And I knew that everyone on the island was watching, and I knew she knew too. But I still was just trying to they were gaslighting me like crazy back then. They still do it now. But back then it was real bad. So I just was having this moment where I was like, let me just, whatever, let's have the conversation. And she kept doing this thing where she was coming in my room and like she wanted to smoke and talk. And I don't smoke like that. But she, often on she did a little something, right? So she would just come in and smoke and we just sit there and we'll talk, right? And it just, again, it didn't feel genuine because I knew everyone was watching. So it used to drive me crazy because I'm such a private person. And back then it was still relatively new to me being on camera and the level of viral that the targeting had taken on at that point. But anyway, so this was one of those conversations where I just said, F it. And I just sat there and I acted like the cameras weren't there. But I still cognizant. I still didn't say certain things. I just wouldn't because the cameras were there. But she was just saying anything. Like, it was just like a tactic, I guess. But also, I think she just didn't care. She was dealing with mental health back then, too. You know, this was before what's going on with her now, where things have gotten a lot better. She had just gotten back on island, and she had just broken up with this tumultuous relationship with this boyfriend she had in the States, and it was a horrible relationship, and she had just I don't want to say too much of her business. A lot of stuff happened then, so I think she just did not give a rat's ass back then. Even now, she's kind of done stuff on camera where I'm like, hello, the whole island's watching, but it's not like back then where I could tell, did not give a rat's ass. She was just saying anything back then. Anyway, so I think probably because of whatever relationship she just got out of, bad relationship, I think she was just thinking about the whole history of her dating and where it started, and I think that's what led to her venting about this Chris guy. Because it really was a chain of reaction. Because first of all, we're artistic in this family. I write poetry, she paints. She's a really good painter. Like, if you've seen some of her paintings, she's one of those people that could have been like big with her paintings. Her paintings are really good when she really tries, right? She's really good. And so she was supposed to go to art school. That's what she was supposed to do. She ended up instead going to the school down here on an island, which there's nothing wrong with this school. They have some good programs here. But specifically, if you're trying to be an artist and do painting, there were schools she had gotten into that she was supposed to try to get to, right? So that she could pursue painting. And even if you try to get into painting and you don't make it as like a big artist, you can still become a teacher. You can at least become an art teacher or something, right? Anyway, things worked out in the long run. God does everything for a reason. But nonetheless, this is what was going on. So back then, instead of going to art school like what she had planned to do, she like booked her whole life around the promises that this man was singing in her ear. Apparently, So back to the other Chris, before I get to the older Chris where something really happened, right? So the other Chris, I explained to you all what was going on, right? So there was a party and whatever happened, right? Where he heard that she had a crush on him. And it was like this low-key bullying thing. But I don't think he was doing it as much as the girl was. I think the girl saw her as competition. And she was just coming into her own. But she was still kind of nerdy, where this girl was more popular and well-known. So she was able to wield her popularity as like this kind of tactic. Anyway, so that was all that happened with that. Nothing ever really popped off with that. That was years ago when she was in middle school. Then she got in high school, and she had a PE coach that had the name Chris. And he was significantly older than her. He was in his late 20s, from what I understand. He's older than the older person in my close circle that I told you all lives in the States with her husband and her children. The man is significantly older than her. I don't know what the age difference is. I don't recall, but it's ridiculous. He's in his late 20s, and she was, I believe, in 10th grade when she first started interacting with him, when he was her coach. So anyway, some sort of inappropriate relationship started between the two of them, like while he was her coach. But he was smart about the way he did things. Like, he would contacting her through Snapchat. And if you know how Snapchat works, the messages disappear. They don't stay, so there's no paper trail. And I don't even think you can screenshot Snapchat messages. I'm not sure. I forget what it is, but it was just like very calculating the way this thing was done, right? And so it started off as like this subtle thing where it's like she's telling us she has a crush on him. And so we're just thinking it's a schoolgirl crush. Like, you know how much children have crushes on their teachers if the teacher's attractive? Who cares? Isn't that a big deal? But it's if the teacher's reciprocating, that's a problem. The teacher should never be reciprocating. That should never be the case. So anyway, that's what was going on. It was like this thing where it seemed like low-key reciprocation, and what she termed as grooming. Now that she's older, she realized she feels like she was groomed. So she's this young girl, little girl, 10th or 11th grade, and he's this big man in his late 20s. And they're communicating via Snapchat and having these outside conversations outside of school. And so it turned into this thing where she, felt like they were going to be together. From the conversation she was having with this man, it was this big secret thing. And she was telling us she had a crush on him, but she wasn't telling us everything. And so we were kind of hearing tidbits of this. And now we're just thinking it's a schoolgirl crush. But even his coworker noticed something was amiss. This lady was my PE coach when I was in that school. And I also played on the basketball team with her. She was my coach for the basketball team. Nice lady. She was teaching her for many years. But she saw that something inappropriate was going on. And she went to the older person in my close circle that worked at that school. That was an administrator at the school. And was like, hey, I think something inappropriate is going on. And so that's this later caused drama too with the two older people in my close circle, because one of them was like, you should have really like clamped down when that was said to you or whatever. And it's not her fault. She did kind of like talk to him and say like, look, I don't know if something's going on, but whatever. But it wasn't like taken serious like that. I think she just didn't think he would actually be doing that. Whatever, because it's just like ridiculous. So anyway, something was going on, really was going on. And later when she kind of revealed everything to us, this person in my close circle that was dealing with this older man, she told us everything, like that they used to communicate through Snapchat. And the reason being is because Snapchat messages disappear. So they don't stay. So it's not like there's a paper trail. And I think you can't even screenshot Snapchat messages. I think when you screenshot it, the person is notified that you screenshot the message. So it was like he was very calculating in the way that he did things. And so after she graduated, he was smart about it. He didn't physically mess with her while he was her teacher, but he was having inappropriate conversations and like grooming her. Hold on a second, y'all. Y'all, give me a minute. Let me open the gate. I'll be back, y'all. Y'all, I'm at work. Remember that. So there might be moments where someone's coming through the gate and I'll have to stop. So just give me a second. Anyway, y'all. So yeah, it was like he was grooming her for whatever it was he was planning to do. And now I don't know if eventually over the course of them dealing with each other, he did have genuine feelings for her. But the way he operated was just, it was predatory. It was definitely predatory, and it's inappropriate regardless. There are people that date that, the person's like 10 years older than you. You hear these age gap relationships. You hear about it all the time. But what made it disturbing was when it started. She was in 10th grade and he was in his late 20s. I'm a teacher. I've dealt with students that were closer in age to me than the age gap between the two of them. And I would never look at my students like that before. I've had students tell me inappropriate things before. And it's like, stop it. Like, I would never, they look like children to me at that age. When they're in 10th and 11th grade and 9th grade and stuff, they look like children. So to me, it's just so disturbing. I don't know. I don't even care if you're an attractive person that age. You look like a child. So anyway, I can't validate anything really, because even if there was a moment where he did have some sort of, care or feeling towards her, even after she graduated, it's just, the whole thing is just kind of disturbing. Anyway, so nonetheless, whatever, right? And it's just the fact that, then you're hearing there are other females. This is where it really turned into a problem, right? So anyway, so he waited till after she graduated and was kind of promising her like a relationship, like after she graduates, eventually, this is what she told us. He was telling her they were going to be together, and, she was going to move in with him. And this was the conversations that was taking place, apparently. So she actually designed her whole life around this man. She was supposed to go away to art school, and she ended up going to school down here for a few semesters. And a lot of stuff happened too when she came down here, because of course things didn't work out with him. It wasn't what he promised. So anyway, after she graduated and she goes to the school down here, they had this secret run. I don't want to tell her business. She talked about this on camera, mind you. She has said all of this on camera. This all was talked about in 2023. And that's what led to me interjecting and piggybacking off of the conversation and saying horrible stuff. And it was just really because I thought it was so unfair. Because I know I didn't do anything. I sent a text and I was literally tracked down like an animal when I tried to relocate off island. And this man confirmed did stuff and people knew about it, and nothing of the sort ever happened to him. In fact, I believe he's still a teacher now. From what she's telling me, I think he's married now, actually, with a child or whatever, however many kids the man has. I know last time I think it was a child she told me she saw he was having, whatever. Anyway, so nonetheless, so he ended up taking her V card. He set up some sort of rendezvous or whatever for them when she graduated from high school, and ended up taking her V card. And then literally a week after taking her V card, he stopped contacting her. Completely stopped contacting her. But that wasn't the end of it. But he did something like that. He did that tactic where it was like he was not contacting her for a whole week after. And it was just like a long time after he wasn't contacting her. And then it's like he did get in contact with her. Like, I think it was months later he did get in contact with her. And it off and on, they were dealing with each other. But it was this thing where he was leading her on and he kept making these empty promises like they were going to be together. And, you know, he's just waiting for the right time. And then she's going to move in with him. But then she's finding out he's dealing with other females. And it was never what she thought it was going to be. It was never a solid relationship. It was never a real relationship. And he never did move her in. He never did do any of the things he promised. So I remember it was just like, you already did all these things. You took the person's V card. And then you didn't at least try to make an honest person. I think he knew it would look bad if he actually did try to be with her. Because he was her teacher. But if you knew that in your head that, look, this can't ever really be a thing. I know this is not going to look good. This is just not going to work. Why would you take the person's virginity and you see her, she's a good artist. Why would you let her go to school? You don't care for this person. Do you care about her? For real? Or are you just selfishly trying to, like, satisfy whatever predatory need you were feeling at the time? So anyway, I do believe over the course of time of them dealing with each other, I do think he did start to feel something for her. Because there was a night where he called her and he was drunk. And he was talking about how he's a horrible person and he really does love her and he knows he's a horrible person. And some night he called her, he was pissy drunk and he was crying and saying these things. So I do believe, I don't think he's like a complete sociopath or psychopath without emotion. I think there was some sort of feeling there, but it was just completely selfish what he chose to do. And apparently there were other, from what she's saying, other females, young females. I don't know how many. I just know about 2 for sure. I don't know if there were more than that outside of that. I just know about 2. There was another girl that was in the same grade as this person in my close circle that apparently had some sort of thing with him too, where there was like this big scandal where a party happened apparently and he did something. She was claiming he did something and it seems like all the people around him started saying, no, that's not what happened. And it was kind of like this cover up and he took the girl's phone and it was just really weird. And the girl was talking to the person in my close circle and crying about it. And it seems like something happened there too with her. So there's her. And then there's the reason why I brought it up in the first place. This guy from the gym, the bipolar dude from the old gym and his brother that they're throwing on me in the new gym, their sister apparently dealt with him too. And it seems like he led her on too. She's a young... Yeah, sorry, y'all. I cut the thing off because I'm trying to be careful about saying relationships and stuff like that. I was trying to make sure I wasn't saying the relationship with the person in my close circle. But yeah, this bipolar dude, what led to me talking about this Chris guy in the first place? This bipolar dude from the gym, whose brother they're using on me in the new gym now. Their sister, the reason why I even know who they are in the first place, like I said, it's because of the sister who went viral when my targeting first started. Prior to her going viral, in the years of 2020, 2021, whatever, when she was going through whatever she was going through, mental health issues years down the line. I think a lot of these girls, that guy stems from that guy. I think he messed up a lot of these girls, to be honest with you, because this person in my close circle had a very tumultuous dating life after him. And she even talks about it. She feels like he messed her up, because he took her V card, led her on for a couple years, and it never was what he said it would be. And he was messing with other females. And she ended up dating like a bunch of shitty ass dudes. And there was a moment where I talked about this in recent videos anyways. She's talked about it on camera. Remember I told y'all we had this big ratchet ass fight recently and she tried to throw something in my face. And I said, what about you and guys, whatever with, I don't want to say too much stuff. But there was a moment where she was moving. I don't want to say promiscuous, but just out of character for how I think she would have moved had it not been for what took place with this guy that groomed her. And she talks about it too. She thinks that this, stems back to what happened with him. And I believe that's what happened to these dudes' sister too. I think he had messed her up too. I think so. Honestly, I really think so. I don't know for sure. I can't say too much. I don't know the girl's personal life. But I do know she ended up having mental health issues down the line and dealing with some next dude that was horrible. And it just kind of reminds me of what happened with the person in my close circle. Thank God it didn't get to that point with her though. Anyway, so this dude, the bipolar dude from the old gym, his sister back then when my sister was still dealing with this guy, because after he took her V card and then he went MIA for months, he ended up talking to her again and they started messing around off and on. But they were never like concretely together. And he never ever did move her in or take, like make a honest woman out of her. He was messing with her and multiple females, younger females. And so she found out about that guy's sister, the bipolar dude from the gym. Somehow she found out that they were dealing, and they ended up in contact with each other and having conversations. And she was under the impression that it was something more than what it was too with this guy. And so she went back and confronted him about it and was cussing him out about messing with that girl. And he was saying stuff about her, like making it like, saying stuff about her. I'm not going to say too much. He was saying stuff about her, bad stuff. And so my sister, saying bad stuff. And so the person in my close circle was just, it seems like her brain started working after a while of dealing with this man. She started saying, I wonder what he's saying about me. Because he's saying this about her to me. What is he saying about me to her? Because she has like this warped perception of what's going on with her and him too. And so that seems to be like the theme, where he was kind of leading these young females on and making them feel like something serious was popping off, and he's just using their body, it seems. So, anyway, y'all, it's just crazy. I try not to spread rumors. Those two are confirmed. That's not rumors. I was there live and direct when the thing was happening with the person in my close circle and the bipolar dude from the gym sister, because they even had this thing where they were talking, and then for a while my sister didn't like her. It was like this beef thing, and then it turned into like this amicable conversation they had, and I don't know. So anyways, she even said there was a time where she wrote the girl and the girl didn't answer her or looked at her weird or something, so she feels like he was going back and telling the girl strange things about her, just like how he was coming back and telling her horrible things about the girl, what he was saying about the girl. So it just seems like he was playing the field with these young females, and I think he messed some of them up. I really do. So those two are confirmed. Those two, the person in my close circle, who he was her teacher, and she feels like he groomed her. And then this other girl that was like a year or two older than her. So he's still significantly older than her too. This girl, like I said, that's sisters with the bipolar dude from the gym. And then that girl from the high school, like I said, that was in the same grade as the person in my close circle. That I can't like confirm that anything happened. It was more so like this party happened and she started talking and saying specifically with him something went down, and people rallied around and said, no, that's not what happened. I guess his friends or whatever. And then her phone was taken. They couldn't find her phone. And so there was text messages apparently, and the phone went missing and they couldn't find her phone. And then she stopped talking. They were trying to squeeze her for info and she stopped talking. So I don't know, what happened there for sure. I try not to spread rumors. I just know there was some sort of scandal there too that got kind of covered up. Whether it was that something happened or didn't happen, I don't know. But I can tell you for sure something happened with the person in my close circle and with this girl, with the bipolar dude from the gym's sister. Anyway, so that's how I know who they are, long story short, because I didn't mean to delve into this Chris guy, but I thought about it when I started talking about them, and then I started talking about how I know who they are. It reminded me of the other Chris that they used as retribution on me, I think, for that conversation that happened in 2023, when the person in my close circle was saying stuff about him first, and saying all the stuff I just talked about, and how she felt like he groomed her and took advantage of her. And as she was saying these things, I had just gotten back on island from being tracked down for sending a text message. I was livid. I started to piggyback off the conversation and just be like, this is crazy. Because I'm like, oh, I forgot all this, all this shit did happen. And this man, I think to this day is still a teacher. Nothing happened to him. And I'm being tracked down and punished to the highest degree for a text. So I started saying stuff, like piggybacking off of what she was saying and just, whatever. And so I believe that's also partially why they used that Chris guy on me as a gang stalker in the gym. Not the main Chris, the older one that was her teacher. The other Chris that she just had some brief crush on that didn't have nothing really with that Chris. I'm like, why did they really use him? And then if you look at what happened with him and it wasn't even that big of a deal, really. It was more so like he got offended when he was doing the gang stalking thing, and I started rebuking that day. I talked about this in prior videos. He was coming in, he kept smiling at me, obvious gang stalker. I know who you are. Anyway, he was one of the pleasant ones. He wasn't really nasty like some of the other gang stalkers, so I didn't have a problem with him. It was still just annoying because I know it's gang stalking. So this one day they brought him in there and I went in the back room to do adductors. And that's like I don't want to say a provocative workout, but it's like a workout that you feel uncomfortable doing anyway. Most females, you just do it because it's important for thigh development. If you're into working out, you know how important that workout is. But it's uncomfortable to have somebody on top of you, smiling up at you and staring at you gang stalking while you're doing that workout where you're opening your legs and closing your legs and opening your legs. That's annoying. So I went to the back room to do it. This was in the old gym, to do the adductor workout. And he comes in there, he does this big smile at me, and then he gets on the machine next to me. So I remember just feeling really annoyed. I was just tired of them putting people on top of me, and I knew it was all retribution for this guy, man. The main trainer from the old gym. So I remember getting annoyed, but I didn't say anything disrespectful to him. You know, back then I wasn't really holding my tongue. I used to be saying all kinds of stuff to some of these gang stalkers in my head. Remember, with the neural monitoring, they can hear your thoughts in real time. So I would be thinking nasty thoughts sometimes towards some of these gang stalkers. But typically it would be the ones that were doing nasty, horrible stuff first. Anyway, so since he had never done anything to me, aside from just being a presence, an annoying presence, I just got up, he smiled at me, and I just kept a straight face. And I just got up and I moved from back there. And I went to the leg extension machine that was outside in the main area. He slowly came out afterward, and he kind of looked down, and then he went on the cable machine that was nearby. While they're using him, they're also using this guy that I talked to years ago, y'all, over a decade ago. This guy that had a crush on me in high school, and he was 3 years younger than me. And so when I was in college, I think I was 20, was when I finally gave him an opportunity to talk to me, because all through high school, my friends were telling me, you crazy? You don't like him? My two friends, they thought he was like this cute guy. He played the saxophone, and he's tall and whatever. And I was like, he's too young. I never could get past the fact that he was 3 years younger than me, and that I'm in 12th grade and he's a 9th grader. I just couldn't get past that. So that's why I wasn't feeling it. They're like, so-and-so has a crush on you. Are you dumb? You blah, blah, telling me all this stuff, my friends, right? So anyway, when I went away to college, and he's in 12th grade now, he's 17. No, I believe he was 18. I think he had graduated from high school. He was 18 and I was 21. And I had just broken up with my boyfriend up there. He started writing me on Facebook, and he looked older. I was seeing his pictures, and he's a handsome guy. He looked older. He plays saxophone. I'm into music too. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. I'll talk to him. He was the first younger dude I ever talked to. I've always had an issue with talking to dudes younger than me. I like guys my age or older, preferably older. So anyway, I remember I'm talking to him, and he was just very clingy, and I'm not trying to sound like a bitch, you know. Now that I'm targeted and I have no options, y'all, it's like, it feels so weird talking about when I was actually a normal human and I was declining men and stuff. Anyway, so I just remember he kept calling me every minute, and we were at the fairgrounds with my niece. This was when my older sister had my niece, right? And the fair came to Tallahassee. I was up in school. I was in community college at the time. And we took her to the fairgrounds, and I told him, I'll call you back. I said, I'm at the fair with my niece. He kept calling me and calling me and calling me. And I kept showing him, I said, look, he's calling me again. I'm a very funny person. Like, I'm very introverted. And I can start to feel crowded easily in a relationship, or I can start to feel claustrophobic easily. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's just, I can't explain my personality. So typically, I can't be with the man that's clingy. It's just, it will run me straight to the hills. And I was already skeptical about the thing because he was 3 years younger than me. I really just gave him a chance because, I saw he was playing, I know he plays the saxophone, but I thought he was a cool guy. He's playing the saxophone, he's handsome, he looked older in his pictures now. I'm 21, he's 18 at this point. I felt like it was acceptable, something that was okay. Oh my God, the man kept calling and calling. I'm picking up and he goes, baby, baby. He kept doing this thing, baby. Like this thing, like it was just like bothering me so bad. And I know that sounds terrible. I'm just being honest. I know they already said I'm a bitch and stuff. And I was young back then too. I was 21 back then. I had just broke up with my boyfriend because I felt trapped. Because I felt like the relationship was too serious and I was young. I was only 21. He was living with me and, that felt lock into this relationship and I'm only 21. So I just got out of that situation. He wasn't clingy. He was not clingy at all. So that wasn't the issue. It was literally just the seriousness of the relationship and I was so young. But I just broke up with that situation. And it's like I'm feeling like you're kind of acting kind of clingy. Like every minute he was calling like, baby, baby. And I just told you I'm at the fair with my niece. I'm going to call you back. So I remember that just like really being too much for me. And so I believe if I'm not, you see, the thing was over a decade ago. I can't even remember how it happened. I can't remember if I ghosted him because there was a point in my life when I was younger. I wouldn't do that now. When I was in my early 20s where I used to ghost guys, especially if you're not someone I'm in a relationship with, I would never do that to somebody I'm with. But there were guys back then, like if I'm just talking to you and I'm not feeling the vibe, like I would ghost you. And so I think I ghosted him, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't know how to, he was too clingy. I don't know how to say, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, I think I ghosted him. I think I actually ghosted the guy. I think I blocked his number. I'm almost certain that's what happened. I think I blocked his number. I was famous for doing that back then. So anyways, so years down the line now, after the thing started with the cyber-stalking, cyberbullying dude, I believe you heard him chirping the bird. I believe he caught wind of what was going on. A lot of the guys I went to school with knew about it. And a lot of the guys on island were participating. And so I remember talking to him years later. I mean, years later, y'all. Like maybe 5 years later. And I remember he was moving very weird. I just knew he knew about the thing. He was using the word great. He was just acting just kind of weird way. Even though we were hanging out, he was just acting very strange. And I just knew something wasn't right. So after that, obviously I stopped talking to him again. But throughout the years, we've been friends on Facebook. And he's always liking my stuff. He's always sending me messages in the inbox despite whatever's going on, right? Whatever feelings he was having towards me. Apparently, the man was holding a grudge the whole time. And I did not know. So recently, before the targeting went viral, when I was still teaching, right before I tried to relocate off island, he was writing under all of my stories. I had to pull that out recently, y'all. Because they used him as a gang stalker and me in the gym. And I'm like, you're using bitter, like, exes and or guys that I talked to, just briefly talked to, you're using them as gang stalkers. And of course, I didn't even know how many dudes had a problem with me, like holding on to stuff from years ago. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know how many people had a problem with me, men specifically. So anyway, he, before I tried to relocate off island, he was like writing under every story and liking my stuff and sending me hard eyes. And I just sometimes would reply. I put a little reply, but I just wasn't taking it serious. After what happened years ago with him, where I got that weird vibe, I'm just like, So it's just like I don't have a problem with him, but he's just there. I wasn't trying to date him or anything like that. And then also too, I remember the same person in my close circle that I was just talking about with the Chris guy. I remember her telling me he ended up going to school with her down here, and he was trying to talk to her too. So it's just like I'm just not feeling. I will feeling it like that, but he's an attractive guy. I think actually he did well for himself. I think he's a teacher at Berkeley, the School of Music up in New York or one of them places. He did good for himself. It's not like he's not a good catch. It's just like the circumstances. It was just like, no, definitely not. So anyway, I used to reply that I didn't have any beef and I wasn't holding a grudge against him. So I didn't know he was still holding something against me years later. Like we're like fully grown now. We're in our 30s. Apparently the man still had something against me. Yes, I had no clue. Because the way he was writing me before I left island, I had no clue. I had to pull the messages out recently and put it in a video. If y'all have been keeping up with my videos, you would have seen I scratched his name out. Because I'm like, the dude was like bitter the whole time. I did not know. Maybe he was a part of the bet. Maybe he was hoping one of these days. I don't know, y'all. So much weird stuff has happened that I wasn't cognizant of until I became targeted. And it was like my eyes opened to everything. So anyway, that same day with the Chris guy, not the older Chris, the Chris that they started using on me, remember I said we talked about 2 Chris's in 2023. And one of the Chris's was just this guy she had a crush on back in the day. Nothing happened with him, and he was like a grade older than her. So it was that same day where I just moved from the back room because that Chris came to the back room and I didn't feel like dealing with the gang stalking while I'm doing abductors and I'm opening my legs and doing this workout. It's just awkward. So I remembered moving outside politely. I didn't say or think anything negative. I didn't look at him stink or anything like that. I just politely removed myself and I went outside to the leg extension machine. So I'm on the leg extension machine. I see him walk out slowly and go to the cable machine. And then out there on one of the other machines, I guess the guy was back on island just visiting or whatever. Because to my knowledge, he lives up in the States. He's a teacher at Berkeley or something like that. Last I checked, at least. I don't know if he relocated down here or something. I don't think so, because I was seeing his Facebook post. I think he lives in the States. I think he was just down here. I think it was summertime. It might have been summertime. Anyway, he's in there, and he's like glaring and guzzling water and slamming the water back and guzzling it and just being nasty and mean. And I remember just looking at him like, oh my God, this dude been holding a grudge this whole time. I was like, what? I was like, first of all, they recruited him? And then second of all, I'm like, dude, wow, he was holding a grudge this whole time. Years later, like almost a decade. And he's not the first dude that they've used on me like that. That I'm like, oh my God, it was another one. Like, it was just so many I didn't know. So anyway, I remember just rebuking it at that point because I already felt myself getting hot. I felt myself getting mad and I was having some really bad reactions back then and then getting villainized for the reactions. So I just started to rebuke it in the name of Jesus Christ. I started rebuking it. And it's like the Chris guy got offended. I don't want to use this Bible verse. I don't want to say that because then it's like he's really going to have an issue with me and then there'll be someone else that's holding a torch against me. But they say the wicked flee when no man pursueth. I wasn't pursuing him, and the rebuke wasn't actually mainly for him. It was mainly for that dude with the water bottle that was being bitter, that I actually had something with. We weren't together, but I had actual history with him. I don't know this Chris guy like that. And he's not my age either. He's younger than me. Like I said, he's a year older than that person, that person in my close circle that had the crush on him. He's a year older than her, and she's 4.5 years younger than me. So I don't know him like that. From what I remember, he was like the kid with the watermelon head. They used to say his head was shaped like a watermelon because he had this big round head and he had a ponytail hanging off the back. Not a bad looking guy, but back then we were kids. I wasn't looking at him like that. Ever. And the reason I'm saying these things is because he was a real bully to me. For 2 weeks, the man took on the rebuke that I did. For 2 weeks, he went to the next door neighbor's house. And they happened to be on island. They've been moved off island, by the way. They happened to be on island renovating the house. And their son is best friends with him, went to the private school that we went to. So they allowed him to be there because what I talked about at the DMV, not the DMV, at the notary that happened with their daughter, where I said she looked older. I didn't recognize her. She looks older than so-and-so. I didn't realize that was her. I believe they took offense to that. And I believe that's why they allowed him to be there for 2 weeks doing bullying shit. All day long, the man was there for hours on end. He really took on the rebuke. For 2 weeks straight, all day long. He's out there acting like he's helping them, but he's doing gang stalking noises on me. I'm watching shows on my phone. Anytime anything horrible would play, he's slamming stuff down in the trash. They had a big trash outside the house. They were like, I guess, peeling up the towels and renovating the house. The same thing that needs to happen to our house, my grandparents' house. Remember I told you that was my grandma's best friend. These are old ass houses. The towel is leaking in the kitchen in our house, y'all. It's a hot mess. I'm just ready to move out of that house. And I have such horrible, experiences now and thoughts and memories in this neighborhood that used to be like this nostalgic place for me because of the childhood I had in there and the way my grandma used to keep the house and the memories I had. It's like this just all got freaking tarnished due to the targeting and living in the house in the state that it's in now and the neighbors and the stuff they do. It's terrible. Anyway, I'm not meaning to go off on a tangent. So for 2 weeks straight, because I rebuked the gang stalking, and yeah, I was rebuking him too because he was a gang stalker too, but it wasn't really for him. It was mainly for that bitter dude from over a decade ago. Then I'm like, what? And he's like guzzling the water and slamming stuff down and doing this mean face. And I was just like, what the heck? This dude. I'm like, a whole decade later, really? You were just messaging me before I tried to relocate off island though. Anyway, so that's who I was rebuking. It really wasn't about the Chris guy, but it's like he got offended and he left about the gym and I don't know what took place, but all of a sudden I'm pulling up to the house. He walks out their yard and he goes to the garbage and throws something in the garbage. They had this big garbage outside because they were renovating the house and they happened to be back on island when this shit was popping off. They, mind you, had been back on island for about a week. That garbage had been out there. He was not there. The day this thing happened where I rebuke whatever, all of a sudden he's there every day for hours on end helping them renovate and throwing shit in the garbage. And every time things are playing on my phone, he's slamming shit in the garbage. Then they tried to warp it with the technology and warp what took place between him and I and make it like I felt rejected. I'm like, rejected? First of all, I knew he was a gang stalker. I'm not stupid. Don't insult my intelligence. You know full well that he's the guy that we were talking about in 2023 on the bed. And second of all, he was being nice the whole time until I went out there and I rebuked the gang stalking. And then he left and for 2 weeks straight, because he was pressed and upset about, I guess, me rebuking gang stalking, for 2 weeks straight, for hours on end outside these people's house, gang stalking and doing noise campaigns on me. But this is what they'll do. They'll take these weird interactions and warp it and create these false narratives from it. And then it's like they made him like this main staple and sensitized, sensationalized him. And everything is Chris with the technology to send in the name Chris. It's just weird. And so that's what led to me just now talking about the other Chris, because I believe that's partially why they did what they did. But I also, remembered the other Chris because I'm talking about the bipolar dude from the gym and his sister and how I know her. And it's through that Chris. And so it reminded me of the other Chris. The one that they were using as a main staple in the gang stalking. I want to say the irrelevant Chris, because there was nothing with him and the person in my close circle, really. Aside from a harmless, innocent childhood crush when she was in middle school. She's 29 now. I'm 34. We're big grown people now. It's just weird. I would have understood if they used the other Chris as a gang. Not to say I want them to use him, and of course he wouldn't be. You'd think that man wants to be on camera with the big scandal going on with him? So I'm not saying they should use him. I understand why he wouldn't want to be used, and I don't want him to be used either. Trust me. But I'm just saying I would have understood if they used him more, because there was actually some sort of relevancy between him and the person in my close circle and my family. The other Chris, what? So anyway, that's what led to me going into detail about that older Chris, though, because I believe that's partially why they threw that Chris on me so aggressively. And then also just talking about how I know the dude, I keep calling him the bipolar dude, because it just was bipolar activity he was doing from the old gym, who came out the juice bar and did whatever. And I believe that's why he was doing all that activity to me in the old gym. And now they're throwing his younger brother on me in the new gym. It's just annoying, man. Anyways, y'all, so I'm not meaning to go off on a tangent. I just said I would mention that guy because he was doing some gang stalking stuff day before yesterday. Not yesterday. The last 3 days have been loaded with weird gang stalking stuff since I made the last video. The manipulative tactics used on targets. And I was talking about how they use certain gang stalkers to impede my workout in the gym. And they know that I'm already villainized. And so if I say something about it, they know that I'm going to feel uncomfortable to say something about it. Because it's an elderly person, it's going to look like I'm being a bitch. Because I'm saying, yo, I just want to work out. And I can tell you're doing a tactic. And you're purposely making the person talk to me every time I'm doing a set. You know, and so it's just like, it's this weird thing. Just check out that last video I posted, y'all. It's like this weird tactic they were trying to use with some of these gang stalkers in the new gym. So after I made the video and I talked about in detail, you know, some of the tactics that felt manipulative. After I made that video, they were nicer to me for like a day. And then I left work, not yesterday or day before yesterday, the day before that. I left work and I remember that morning I was seeing the color teal. I remember teal is used in a positive way on me because they know that's my favorite color. So they've started using or inserting teal for good things. And that's my, you know, I love when they use that color on me. I'm like, God, finally a color that I can dig. It's not the annoying yellow that reminds me of this dude from the gym. It's not the green, pushing false narratives. It's teal, my favorite color. It's kind of a mix of those two colors, actually, but not really. More like green and blue is what teal is. So anyway, I saw teal. I even drove into the neighborhood where they be gang stalking like crazy, and I saw teal. So I was like, interesting. You know, and so that day went well. That day was okay. Then the next day was just like this weird switch, the same bipolar stuff, similar to like that dude I was just talking about, the same bipolar activity. Where the day was horrible. It's like they were doing a bunch of gang stalking stuff and insinuating that I was gonna like not have employment. You know, doing noise campaigns on the job and stuff. I was like, why are they doing this? Like with the birds and stuff. For horrible stuff. I was like, why are they doing this? I was like, what is going on? And I remember leaving work and it was just like really bad with the gang stalking. It was real horrible, harsh gang stalking activity. And I'm hinting at horrible stuff. And then I went to the gym and that guy's brother, the bipolar guy's brother, was on top of me. You know, so I said, no, I'm going to have to make a video about this. This is strange. And that's what led to me making this video, because it was like this complete switch from when they were nice to me. After I made the last video, they were like nice to me for one day. And then the next day was completely like the polar opposite. They were horrible to me. And they even hit me with the energy weapon at work. So I was like, what is going on? I was like, no, I need to make something weird is going on. I need to document this too. So that's what led to me making this video. And then yesterday was like a mid type of day. Like it was kind of good, kind of bad. Like it was mixed activity yesterday. It's just, I don't really understand it. And then last night, now I'm at work still, it's 6:20 a.m. They were hitting me with the energy weapon again. That's what led to me sitting here and saying, I need to finish this video. For, again, no reason. I was just looking at random celebrities' pages. They start hitting me, beaming me with the thing. I'm like, what the heck? And they only started using the hum on me here at work. I kid you not. They know this is true because they even chirped super loud about it when I said it. After they tested me with the Department of Education thing. And like I said, y'all, you would have to check out this video to know what I'm talking about when I say tested me. Because you're not going to know what I'm talking about. It was this reaction I had to them insinuating that I was going to get my job back as a corrections officer last week. Rather than looking excited, I just kind of sat there reserved and confused and anxious because of the bipolar activity. You know, they had just a few days ago done the same thing. And then when I left and went to the store, there was a bunch of bullying, gang stalking activity set up. So rather than looking happy, I just sat there. And I think that was like a problem for them. I don't know what they were thinking or processing, and from my reaction, they're studying me and analyzing me like a damn science project. But anyway, so then I go home and I see a call from the Department of Education, and the lady was telling me, hey, you know, we're conducting interviews soon. You applied to be a secondary English teacher. You know, you need to recertify. You need to get your certification. You need to recertify. Your provisional certification expired October of last year. So I'm like, Immediately I thought it was a test. Because I'm learning, like, just how they're learning me, I'm learning them. And I knew I had some sort of I can feel when these reactions are happening. And I knew when they were doing all the stuff, like the extra stuff, like I'm getting my job back, I was just sitting there awkwardly. I can't help it. I'm not a fake person. And so I was just sitting there feeling uncomfortable and awkward because it's just like this bipolar activity. And so I think they took the reaction the wrong way. And then all of a sudden, I'm going home. I'm getting a call from the Department of Education. I'm like, I think they're testing me to see, oh, she really just wants to be a teacher. I mean, I do. You want me to lie? But it's not really, that's all I want to do. I didn't mind being a correction officer either. Both are good jobs. Both are respectable careers that pay decent. And I can build off of both of them. Because eventually, like I said, the goal is to get my master's and my doctorates in psychology, and I want to get into mental health. Whether it's in education or if it's in the criminal system, in the criminal justice system. Criminal justice. I didn't mean to say criminal. I meant to say criminal justice system. It doesn't matter to me. I've been through so much, I can make it work either way. I'm doing everything to show that I wanted my job back. You see me hopping through hoops, rushing. I nearly bit my brother's head off because he came late one night, and they were even actually attacking me about it. Anyway, whatever the case is, obviously I would be happy to teach again. You know, that's what I've done for years, and what I've been trying to do since I got back on island. So, I mean, that's predictive. You knew I would be happy about that and actually want to pursue that. That's not something to punish me for and get angry about. But immediately after the call, it's like this, you know, immediately started doing tactics, and the bird started chirping, and then I noticed a cockroach, and then I went in the bathroom to get ready and, you know, for the gym or whatever, and I noticed them diving the mosquito in my face, and then that night was the first night that they used the hum on me at work. And then not just that, also, I realized that an email was sent to me from the Department of Education 2 weeks prior to that phone call. I do believe that email was probably like an authentic email telling me about my certification being expired. And I talked about this in that career, where you see the thumbnail that says career, the video I told y'all to check out when I said they were testing me. And I said I went into detail. I do believe that email was authentic. I just didn't read it in its entirety, because I remember, if you listen to the video, you'll hear what happened last year when I was trying to teach again. Some gang stalking activity that was discouraging. So when I saw the email, I only read the first part, and the first part said, you know, good afternoon, Miss Nurse. Due to your certification being expired, we can no longer move forward with your application. So I didn't read the rest of the email. I was just like, okay, they just didn't want to hire me, you know, whatever. You know, it was just like this weird thing, because they came to me with the opportunity last year. I wasn't even pursuing it at that point. I was more so trying to become a corrections officer again. And then my mom came out of nowhere, and listen to that video, y'all. I don't want to tell the story again. You know, basically letting me know that I could teach again. And then it's like it turned into this weird gang stalking thing where it seemed like it wasn't going to happen. So it's like it almost felt like they got my hopes up for no reason. So anyway, I went back to trying adamantly to get my job back as a corrections officer. And then this year, just about 2 weeks ago, I got an email. So when I saw the email and I read the first part, I was like, okay, this is just them closing the thing off. They didn't want me to teach. Okay, whatever. I guess the reaction I had is what led to them. You know, to me, that doesn't make sense when I've been having this reaction and anxious reactions to every other false narrative as well for like the last 4 years that you've been watching me. But anyway, I was just like, okay, whatever. You know what? I wasn't really necessarily trying to fight it, although I thought it was extremely unfair. I already talked about it in videos. That was it. But apparently, the whole email, when I read it in its entirety, after I got that call last week, now that call, I believe, was set up through this job. I believe they were testing me because of the reaction. They even chirped the bird and kind of confirmed it. I think they were testing me because of the reaction I had when I was sitting in that chair, and they were adamantly kind of making noise campaigns and doing like these subtle things to hint that I was getting my job back, because I didn't look excited, or I sat there looking anxious and reserved due to bipolar activity. I think they made the department call me just to see what my reaction would be. And then when I looked like I would pursue it, which obviously, of course I would, they immediately like started doing gang stalking stuff. So even right as it happened, I said out loud what I thought was going on. I said, I know y'all probably made them call me. I know it's because of that reaction I had. I know y'all. I'm just like y'all think you know me. So anyway, though, getting that call is what led to me opening that email, because I was like, this is strange. Just 2 weeks ago, they were telling me they couldn't move forward. And then when I read the whole email, I was like, oh, shoot, this is why comprehension is key. And you should always, but you can't blame me with what I dealt with last year. With the gang stalking stuff where I told you we went down there 2 times. They knew we were coming. Everybody's watching us on camera and they didn't answer the door. So anyways, and again, to know what I'm talking about, you have to watch that video, y'all. But anyway, when I read the email in its entirety, I realized that the latter part of the email said, sent me the link to get recertified and told me to contact the office immediately once I took care of the recertification, basically. So I think they were actually trying to move forward with me anyways, despite the actual phone call that came through 2 weeks later when I think I was being tested. So anyways, y'all, that's what's going on, so it's a lot of stuff going on, y'all. So I was documenting because it just felt like, even after I made that manipulative tactic video, it felt like things got better again for one day, and then the next day was real bad. It was just like, what is going on? And it kept kind of like, almost, it felt like insinuating that I was gonna lose money or something, and like the blackmailing tactic that they use on me sometimes, that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. So I was like, no, man, I have to make a video, because it's like I feel like I'm like fighting like for dear life to hold on to security, not the security job per se, but security, financial security. It's like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and it's still like I'm fighting for dear life to hold on to financial security. And I'm like terrified, like if I have a reaction to abuse, then I'm gonna get penalized for it. So that's what led to me making this video, y'all. B3396. Somebody's coming through the gate, y'all. Hold on. Work. Oh, shoot. B3396. That's CIM100. Work. Sorry, y'all. I'm logging a car that just came in. Remember, it's morning time now, and I told y'all people were going to start coming through. So I'm actually about to close off the video anyway. I'm done venting and saying what I had to say, actually. Hold on, y'all. I'm just writing in the name. You heard the gate closing, right? I'm at work. You hear the plane flying by. The plane noise campaign. Anyway, y'all, so... Excuse me, I just have to document because, I don't know, it was just really disturbing me what happened the day after. Again, like the bipolar, like I realize now it's like a tactic they're using on purpose, like purposely doing bipolar stuff. So anyway, that day after was real bad, to the point where I was like, let me make and then I went to the gym and they had that dude's brother on top of me and it was just irking me. So I was like, let me make a video about this. And then yesterday I had started making the video, right? And I didn't finish, and yesterday wasn't too bad. It was like I said, a midday. And then last night I worked. I didn't finish the video. I kept saying I need to finish it, but I was just chilling. Especially since I started delving into controversial stuff about this dude, right? This older guy and what took place years ago. Because God knows, maybe he turned his life around and repented. From what I understand, he's married now. He has a child. Maybe, he's kind of turned his life around or something. I don't know. But these things really happened, and I just felt like that other Chris that they used on me was low-key retribution for things that was said like 3 years ago in 2023. And it was a piggyback off of what the person in my close circle was saying, where she was just venting her trauma on camera. And then I was projecting my own feelings of my own situation, because I'm like, oh shit, yeah, this dude really did all these things and he's as free as a bird. And I have cameras on me right now while we're talking because of a text message I sent, an innocent text. So anyways, y'all, that's it. I just wanted to document. That's it. I was just documenting, and then it led to me talking about all these different things. It's just so many layers to this thing, y'all. It's crazy. Anyways, I will keep you posted. Like I said in the last video and the one before that, hopefully the next video really will be a workout update, y'all. That's the plan. It's just like these things keep happening that I feel like I have to document, especially when it comes to blackmailing about jobs and stuff. That's where I really like, oh no, man, I have to get on camera. If it were just the other tactics, I'd be like, okay, this is the same stupid crap they've been doing. But when it gets to like blackmailing about jobs and stuff, so I'm like, okay, I have to advocate for myself. And then too, I did want to talk about that guy in the new gym and why I think he's gang stalking me and why I think his brother was acting bipolar in the old gym. And then it led to me talking about the sister. Anyways, y'all, hopefully the next video really will be a workout update, God spare. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace out.